Chapter 188. The huge golden coffin flew up to the sky and disappeared into a black dot. Yu Lingshu had fallen down. His rod was thrown off just now. At this moment, he was rushing over with his bare hands. However, there was still some evil qi in his body. When the evil qi spread over, Lu Li and the others felt suffocated. Little White. At the moment of life and death, Lu Li shouted. Little White rushed over and bit off the black vines on Bai Qiushua's body. Bai Qiushua clenched her teeth and rushed towards Yu Lingshu. A purple moon appeared on her neck. Yi Yuhan was in a coma, Yi Longyu was badly injured, and Zi Lian was sitting on the ground. The only one here that could fight against Yu Lingshu was Bai Qiushua. Bai Qiushua had taken a healing pellet just now. The back of her head had stopped bleeding, but her face was pale. A silver sword appeared in her hand. The purple moon danced around her. She was ready to fight with all her strength. Black air suddenly came out from Yu Lingshu's body. Even though it was not as dense as before, it could still condense into small ghost faces. Those ghost faces were hovering around him. He rushed over, grabbed his iron rod, and smashed at Bai Qiushua with force. Hoi! Bai Qiushua shouted. The long sword in her hand transformed into streaks of silver light. The silver light interweaved together like pear blossoms falling down from the sky. Clearly, it was a powerful Xian skill. Go to hell! Yu Lingshu shouted. The ghost faces on his body kept rushing forward and bumped into Bai Qiushua easily. At the same time, Bai Qiushua's purple moon flew over quietly and cut towards Yu Lingshu's thigh. Bang! Bai Qiushua spat out blood and flew backwards. Yu Lingshu retreated quickly. His thigh was scratched by the purple moon, but it was not cut off. It's over. Clearly, Yu Lingshu was not that old demon anymore. But it seemed he was given some power by the old demon. He was ordered to kill everyone here. Nobody here was a match for him. What to do? At the moment of life and death, Lu Li was surprisingly calm. In the time for one breath, dozens of ideas flashed through his mind. Nobody wanted to die. They must think of a way to kill Yu Lingshu so that they could survive. Finally, he came up with a solution that was not really a solution. A look of determination appeared in his eyes. The ring on his hand glowed. A transparent jade bottle appeared in his hand. A drop of fresh blood in it gave off a strange qi and power. Origin blood essence. Lu Li was ready to stake everything on one throw. He was going to use this drop of origin blood essence of unknown origin. This was his last hope. When this drop of blood was taken out at the auction house, all the blood in his body began to boil, and the silver dragon mark on his back shone. A powerful piece of information appeared in his mind. This blood was extremely beneficial to his silver dragon bloodline. However, the origin of the blood was unknown, and its attributes were unknown. Lu Li had never dared to use it carelessly for fear that his body would explode. At this moment, he couldn't care less. If he didn't use it now, he wouldn't have the chance to use it anymore. He endured the pain and forcefully lifted his hand to open the lid of the jade bottle. Then, he poured the drop of blood into his mouth. Chi. The blood flowed into his body, and a violent energy spread to every muscle, every blood vessel, and every inch of skin in his body. Lu Li let out a miserable cry and rolled around on the ground. At this moment, he felt as if his entire body had fallen into magma. Every inch of his skin, muscles, blood vessels, and bones were burning. His soul also felt a heart-wrenching pain. Lu Li felt he was going to die at this moment. He was going to be burnt to death. Buzzing. At the same time, the animal tooth pendant on Lu Li's neck and the silver dragon bloodline on his back both glowed. However, he was lying on his back, so others couldn't see the glow on his back. The animal tooth pendant on his neck, on the other hand, was glaring. Of course, nobody paid any attention to Lu Li's situation. Yi Yuhan was in a coma, and Zi Lian was dispirited. She looked at Yu Lingshu with a pale face. Bai Qiushua was fighting against Yu Lingshu with all her might, so she had no time to pay attention to Lu Li. Squeak, squeak. Only Little White was looking at Lu Li with worry and kept shouting. Unfortunately, Lu Li could not hear anything at the moment. He just kept howling. Lu Li's howling finally caught Zilian's attention. She took a look, but didn't pay too much attention. She was about to die now. Why would she care about Lu Li's life or death? She looked at Yulingshu and Bai Qiushue with worry. She had a bad feeling. She was afraid that Yulingshu wouldn't recognize her now, and he would kill her as well in the end. Bang! After a while, Bai Qiushue was smashed away again. This time, her chest was covered in blood. It was dyed red by the blood she spat out. Yulingshu stopped. Zilian saw that Bai Qiushue struggled for a bit, but couldn't stand up. She shouted at once. She was the princess of the royal family of the Heaven Martial Kingdom. Yulingshu usually followed her lead. At this moment, she wanted to see if she could stop Yulingshu's violence. She shouted, looked at Yulingshu coldly, and said, Yulingshu, wake up. If you go on like this, the Yu family will be destroyed because of you. At this moment, Lu Li's howling became softer. Hearing Zilian's voice, Yulingshu slowly turned around. There was a trace of struggle in his blood-red eyes. Then he walked towards Zilian step by step. Swish, the huge iron rod in Yulingshu's hand smashed at Zilian's shoulder forcefully. Zilian was smashed away. Zilian was originally entangled by the black vines, but now she was smashed away along with the black vines. Zilian's left shoulder was badly mutilated. She fell to the ground in a coma. Her life or death was uncertain. It's over. Seeing this, Bai Qiushue knew she was doomed. She struggled twice, but she couldn't stand up. She was entangled by the black vines again. She closed her eyes in despair. At this point, not even a god could save her. Shuang, I will go now. Bai Xiaoshuang's image appeared in Bai Qiushue's mind. Somehow she was worried. Would Yulingshu go down the mountain to attack Bai Xiaoshuang and the others after he started his killing spree? That being said, Bai Qiushue was a bit relieved on the thought that there were so many people down the mountain. How come Lu Li stopped howling? Only now did Bai Qiushue remember Lu Li's heart-wrenching howls. She turned around in surprise and frowned. Her face that was half-stained with blood was filled with astonishment, because Lu Li's body was already burnt in many places, especially his hands and feet. Now, the scars on his body were falling off piece by piece, revealing his smooth and tender skin like that of a baby. She fed Lu Li top-level healing pellets, but he couldn't recover without several hours. Also, it was impossible for him to recover so well without any scars. Is this animal tooth pendant a rare treasure? Bai Qiushue was curious to see the animal tooth pendant still glistening on Lu Li's neck. However, on second thought, she and Lu Li were both going to die. Her eyes dimmed down again. Bang, bang, bang. Yulingshu walked towards them step by step, like the knell of the Grim Reaper. What was strange was that the black vines on the ground didn't entangle him, as if they were afraid of the black air outside of his body. Die. He carried the huge iron rod in his hands. His eyes were blood red, and he was surrounded by evil spirits. He was like an ancient demon god. He stared at Bai Qiushue. Blood was still dripping from the iron rod. He wanted to smash Bai Qiushue to death with one move. Crack, crack! Right at that moment, Lu Li suddenly opened his eyes. He waved his arm and stood up. Chapter 189. Bai Qiushue was ready to die. Hearing Lu Li's words, she suddenly turned around. She felt she didn't know Lu Li at all. At this moment, there was a strange qi and energy in Lu Li's body, just like when she saw a fifth-rank Xian beast for the first time when she was little. Even though that Xian beast didn't show its fangs, the qi and energy made Bai Qiushue feel fear from the depth of her soul. Similarly, on the surface, Lu Li didn't seem to have changed much. However, the qi and energy hidden in his body were extremely ferocious. He was like a huge beast lurking in the abyss, ready to show his fangs at any time and tear his enemies into pieces. Swish! Yulingshu didn't respond to Lu Li's words. He just rushed towards Lu Li in a blur. The iron rod in his hand carried a strong, evil qi and smashed at Lu Li's head with the force of wind and thunder. At the same time, The evil chi outside of his body condensed into many small ghost faces which rotated around him, forming a strong defensive circle. Lu Li moved. Seeing that Lu Li didn't move, Bai Qiuxue shouted in surprise. Based on Lu Li's power, if he couldn't dodge this strike, his head would be smashed into pieces. Therefore, she shouted out of instinct. Lu Li didn't move. The silver dragon bloodline on his back glowed brightly. The silver light in his eyes grew brighter as well. He did something that confused Bai Qiuxue. He spread his hands, his chest moved up and down, took a deep breath, and then roared like a wild beast. Roar! Lu Li opened his mouth and roared like a huge beast. He let out an earth-shaking roar. This was not an exaggeration. His roar was horrifying. The entire mountain seemed to tremble. The space in front of Lu Li was rippling. The roar pierced through gold and stones and pierced through the sky. At this moment, Bai Qiuxue felt her eardrums were about to burst. She covered her ears at once. Still, she felt her eardrums were hurting and her soul was shaken. At this moment, she felt the whole world had disappeared. Her soul was trembling and the earth-shaking roar was echoing in her mind. Not only Bai Qiuxue, but Yulingshu was the same. The iron rod had been thrown off by him. He squatted on the ground, holding his head in pain. He kept shaking his head. Blood came out from the corners of his eyes, nose, and ears. He was the closest to Lu Li, so he suffered the biggest impact. Zilian did not die. She had only fainted. At this moment, she was jolted awake by the roar. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted again. It was the same for Yi Yuhan and Yi Longyu. The two of them were awakened by the roar and then passed out again. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths, eyes, and ears, making them look like ghosts. The only one who wasn't affected was Little White. Little White was still squeaking, its eyes filled with excitement. What's that sound? Countless people at the foot of the mountain were shocked. Bai Xiaoshuang's face turned pale. The roar came from the top of the mountain, like the roar of a giant beast. They could hear it clearly from the foot of the mountain. That ferocious aura caused everyone's soul spirit to tremble. This was definitely a very high-class and powerful Shin beast. It was at least a 5th or 6th grade Shin beast. Sister, thinking of this, Bai Xiaoshuang's little face became paler. She suddenly broke free from Bai Rong's restraint and rushed to the sky-climbing ladder. It seemed like he wanted to save autumn snow, but after climbing up a few steps, he was cut down by a wind blade. Lady Shuang, don't act rashly. Bai Rong hurriedly grabbed Bai Xiaoshuang and then shouted, "Retreat for 3 miles." From the top of the mountain came such a horrifying roar. Who knew what it was? What if it was a powerful Shin beast? If they didn't retreat, everyone would die. Young masters and young ladies of the other teams were terrified. They quickly retreated and looked at the top of the mountain with worry. Just now, when a huge golden coffin flew away, everyone already had a bad feeling. Now, this shocking roar made everyone nervous to the extreme. Bang! On the top of the mountain, Yu Lingshu was kicked away. This kick landed directly on his face. His entire face was deformed. His nose was no longer a nose, and his mouth was no longer a mouth. Blood was flowing out from his face, and there was a crack on his face. Lu Li used 50% of his strength in this kick. Even so, it was still horrifying. Lu Li wanted to kick Yu Lingshu to death, but he thought it would be too easy for him. So, he held back some strength. Boom! Yu Lingshu landed on the ground. He rolled for more than a dozen times before he came back to his senses. Lu Li stomped on the ground with both of his legs. Then he flew up like a sharp sword and landed heavily. This time, he didn't use his feet. Instead, he knelt down on Yu Lingshu's chest. Yu Lingshu's eyes were hurting. The blood blurred his sight, making him dizzy. However, at this moment of life and death, he came back to his senses out of instinct. He rolled to the side and dodged Lu Li's kneeling. Bang! Lu Li's strength was too great. A deep pit appeared on the ground because of his kneeling. The crack extended to all directions. Lu Li touched the ground with one hand, turned around, and kicked at Yu Lingshu, who was rolling on the side. Crack! Sounds of bones cracking came out. Yu Lingshu's waist sank into the ground. His head and legs were leaning upwards. Blood was spitting out from his mouth. His blood-filled eyes were filled with murderous intent. He didn't care about anything else. He grabbed at Lu Li's legs with all his strength, trying to amputate one of Lu Li's legs before he died. Lu Li kicked at Yu Lingshu's chin with force. Yu Lingshu was kicked away again. Swish! Lu Li reached out his hands and tore off the black vines on the ground. He rolled to the side and grabbed his mighty heaven halberd. He held it with both hands and swung it backhandedly. He slid on the ground and chopped at Yu Lingshu's head. No! At this moment, Yu Lingshu seemed to have come back to his senses. He shouted in despair, "No!" Bang! The halberd landed on Yu Lingshu's head forcefully. His head exploded like a watermelon. Blood and brain juices flew everywhere. He was dead. Hiss, hiss, a gasp came from behind her. Bai Qiuxue came back to her senses. She happened to see Lu Li smashing Yu Lingshu's head backhandedly. She sucked in a breath of cold air and suddenly felt a little nauseous. She bent over and vomited. After a while, she suddenly remembered something. She looked towards Lu Li. As far as she could tell, Lu Li's fighting capacity had suddenly soared, and he killed Yu Lingshu. Was he being controlled by a demon like Yu Lingshu? She saw that under the ghost mask, Lu Li's silver eyes were filled with coldness. At this moment, Lu Li was holding the halberd with both hands. His back was as straight as a sword. He was like an invincible god. Bai Qiuxue was mesmerized by him. Sensing Bai Qiuxue's eyes, Lu Li turned around. A faint smile appeared in his eyes. Bai Qiuxue and Lu Li's silver eyes looked at each other. Somehow, she felt reassured. Lu Li was still Lu Li. He was not controlled by a demon. I killed Yu Lingshu at the middle stage of the Soul Pond realm. Lu Li's eyes became confused. Even he felt it was unbelievable. Also, Yu Lingshu's fighting capacity was definitely higher than the middle stage of the Soul Pond realm. Yet he was shocked by Lu Li's roar. That was why Lu Li could kill Lu Li so easily. Dragon roar? What a domineering dragon roar. Lu Li was immersed in ecstasy. The roar just now was called dragon roar. It was a bloodline skill. After he consumed that drop of origin blood essence, a bloodline skill appeared in his mind. It was exactly the same as the bloodline skill of burning blood he got after he awakened his bloodline. He relied on the dragon roar to shock Yu Lingshu and kill him. Bloodline skill? That can't be right. Chapter 190. Everyone had a small amount of the bloodline of the ancient god of war. Through a special awakening ceremony, the bloodline could be awakened and a powerful bloodline skill could be obtained. There would only be one type of god's blood in a human's body. Naturally, only one bloodline skill could be awakened. Lu Li heard some things about bloodline skills from Lu Yi before, but he had never heard of anyone having two bloodline skills. If Dragon Roar was not a bloodline skill, then what was it? Could it be that he had consumed the origin blood essence and his body had mutated? On this thought, Lu Li was a bit worried. If he turned into a weird monster, would he still be himself? Take Yu Lingshu as an example. Even though his fighting capacity had been enhanced, it was evident that he was not in control of his soul. What was the point of living like that, even if he had the fighting capacity of the human sovereign realm? Lu Li, Bai Qiuxue's feeble voice came out, which pulled Lu Li back from his thoughts. She said, "You shouldn't have killed Yu Lingshu. You can disable him, but you cannot kill him." Lu Li turned around and looked at Bai Qiuxue. He vaguely understood her concern. Yu Lingshu was clearly the most outstanding disciple of the Yu family. Just now, he was possessed by evil. When others could not protect themselves, they could disable him, but they could not kill him. At the very least, Bai Qiuxue could be killed, Zhou Yin could be killed, Yi Yuhan and Du Xiling could be killed, but not Lu Li. The Yu family dared not to retaliate against those families, but they dared to do so. Even if they could not kill him openly, they would do it secretly. Does the Yu family dare to send someone into the Thousand Island Lake? Lu Li asked after some thoughts. That won't happen. Bai Qiuxue shook her head and said, "I'm just afraid that when you go out, there will be powerful warriors of the Yu family outside to kill you by force. As long as nothing happens when you go out, The Yu family will not dare to send anyone into the Thousand Island Lake openly. Bai Qiushu added after some thoughts. Yuling Shu is dead. His jade talisman of life must be broken. Also, I think his jade talisman of life is of the highest level. It can record the scene of his death. In other words, the scene of you killing Yuling Shu is already known by the higher-ups of the Yu family. The Yu family might have already sent someone to gather outside of the tomb of Dragon King. As soon as you come out, they will kill you. Seeing Lu Li's serious expression, Bai Qiushu comforted him. Lu Li, Uncle is here. I will ask Uncle Lung to step in. With Uncle Lung around, the Yu family won't dare to act recklessly. Lu Li nodded and put the matter of Dragon Roar aside. The ring on Bai Qiushu's hand glowed as she took out a jade bottle and said, "Go and feed them some healing pellets. Later, bring everyone to a place where there are no black vines. Let them heal first before we find a way out. That's right. Can you check the surroundings later to see if there are any treasures? Although we searched once and found some, there were many places that we didn't search carefully." All right. Lu Li waved his halberd and cut off the black vines around him. The black vines were not difficult to deal with. The main reason was that those ghostly noises could easily make people faint. After the golden ancient coffin flew away, the ghost noise also disappeared, so these black vines were no longer a threat. He took the bottle and opened it. Looking at Autumn Snow, he asked, "Do I need to feed you one?" Bai Qiushu nodded. Lu Li took one out. She opened her cherry lips that were stained with blood. Lu Li frowned and wiped the blood off the corner of her mouth and chin with the back of his hand. Bai Qiushu's delicate body froze. Lu Li's hand stopped in midair as well. It seemed this action was a bit ambiguous. Lu Li blushed. Luckily, he was wearing a mask. He paused for a moment and then threw the healing pellet into Bai Qiushu's mouth. She swallowed it with a blushing face and blood on her face. Lu Li asked Little White to lead the way, and they tore the black vines apart. He walked to Zilian and found that she was badly injured. Her left arm was badly mutilated, and her face and mouth were covered in blood. He asked Little White to tear the black vines off Zilian. Then he carried her up carefully and walked to the entrance of the peak. He put her down in a safe place and fed her 2 healing pellets. Then he carried Yi Yuhan out and fed her 2 healing pellets as well. Lu Li didn't think too much when he was carrying 2 beautiful ladies in his arms. He didn't feel embarrassed since they were in a coma as well. He carried Yi Longyu out and fed him the pellets. Then he walked to Autumn Snow, tore the black vines off her, and asked, "Lady Autumn Snow, do you need my help?" Autumn Snow was badly injured. At first, she was hit on the back of her head, and then she was smashed away several times. Many of her bones were broken. Just now, in the face of life and death, she had to fight with all her might. Now that the danger was over, she didn't even have the strength to stand up. She thought about it and said with a blushed face, "Please carry me over." Okay. Lu Li put his arms around her waist and carried her up gently. He didn't feel anything when he was carrying Zilian and Yi Yuhan, but now he did, because Autumn Snow was awake. She was so shy that she lowered her head and buried it in his chest, which made him feel even stronger. Lu Li's heart skipped a beat. His chest was moving up and down quickly. He felt something amazing in his hands. He felt his mouth was dry and his breath was short. Bai Qiushu sensed Lu Li's abnormality. She blushed even more. Seeing that Lu Li didn't leave, she whispered, young Master Lu." Oh. Lu Li came back to his senses. He strode outside with a blushing face and put Bai Qiushu down next to Zilian. He took out some water from his interspatial ring and said, "Lady Qiushu, do you want some water?" "Okay. Thank you, young Master Lu." Bai Qiushu nodded with a blushed face. Lu Li moved over with the canteen. Bai Qiushu took the water with her eyes closed. Lu Li's heart skipped a beat when he saw Autumn Snow's pretty face and her misty eyebrows. He almost poured the water on her head. Lu Li felt thirsty after he fed her some water. He took it over, took off the mask, and gulped down some water. Then he felt something was wrong again. He glanced at Autumn Snow carefully and found anger and annoyance in her eyes. He stood up in embarrassment and said, "I will go and see if there are any treasures. If there are, we will share them." With that said, Luli left with Little White. He only took off his tattered clothes after he entered the misty area. Looking at his baby-like skin, Luli was surprised again. Just now, many parts of his body were burnt. After he consumed the origin blood essence, his wounds were all healed. Even his scars fell off. It was miraculous. Luli put on a new warrior robe and went treasure hunting with Little White on the peak of the mountain. In the end, he found nothing except Yu Lingshu's rod. He also took Yu Lingshu's interspatial ring. When he came back, Bai Qiushua's expression had returned to normal. Luli reached out his hand and said, I only got Yu Lingshu's interspatial ring and a rod. No other treasures. Oh, take it. Bai Qiushua looked up and said, all the valuable treasures should be in that golden ancient coffin. Too bad it flew away. Well, even if it didn't, we can't get it. There must be a demon's soul in there. Not even regular powerful warriors of the eternal realm can take it, let alone us. Luli followed Bai Qiushua's gaze and looked up to the sky. He asked with curiosity, where did the coffin fly to? Bai Qiushua thought about it and said, it should have flown into the turbulence of space. Dragon King must have made some arrangements. He didn't want anyone to desecrate his body. I don't think anyone can get the hidden treasures of Dragon King. Such a pity. Chapter 191. Luli sat on the peak with his legs crossed and rested for 6 to 8 hours. He had recovered from a weakness caused by releasing his bloodline skill. Yi Yuhan, Yi Longyu, and Zi Lian all woke up. Luli didn't hide the fact. He said frankly that Yu Lingshu was killed by him. Of course, he didn't say that he killed Yu Lingshu all by himself. Instead, he said that Bai Qiushua wounded Yu Lingshu badly, and he killed him with a sneak attack. Bai Qiushua didn't say anything. Instead, she nodded slightly to cover for Luli. Bai Qiushua could understand that Luli didn't want to expose his abilities. Luli had helped her a lot, and even saved her life. This was not a big deal. Yi Yuhan and Yi Longyu thanked Luli and Bai Qiushua gratefully. Zilian, on the other hand, was worried. She knew Yu Lingshu's status in the Yu family very well. Yu Lingshu was dead. Luli was the last one to kill him. The Yu family would not let Luli go. Maybe the powerful warriors of the Yu family were already on their way to the cliff of purgatory. Island owner Lu, did the coffin of the Dragon King really fly away? After Luli explained what happened next, Yi Longyu asked with doubt. Yi Longyu even looked at the interspatial ring in Luli's hand out of instinct. Yi Longyu, what do you mean? Bai Qiushua glared at him and coldly scolded. Are you suspecting that Luli has hidden treasures of the Dragon King? We saw it fly away with our own eyes. What's more, Luli saved your life. Even if he got the hidden treasure, are you going to snatch it? Luli rolled his eyes. Bai Qiushua meant it for his own good, but her words made Yi Longyu and Yi Yuhan even more suspicious. Even if he had a mouth, he might not be able to clear his name. After all, both of them had fainted later on, so they didn't know what had happened. Yi Longyu smiled embarrassedly and said, Please calm down, Miss Qiushua. Longyu naturally didn't mean that. I was just a bit curious. Island Lord Lu has saved our lives. We will definitely repay you in the future. Li casually cupped his fists in front of his chest. His face was hidden by the mask. He looked at Bai Qiushua and said, Lady Qiushua, how is your injury? Why don't we go down first? I bet Miss Shuang and the others are worried sick. After recuperating for a few hours and swallowing a few top-notch healing pills, even though his injuries were not completely healed, he could walk with some difficulty. Bai Qiushua was also afraid that Bai Shuang would be worried and act recklessly. She stood up and said, Then let's go down the mountain. Farewell. Goodbye. Luli stood up and said. Yi Yuhan and Yi Longyu cupped their fists with a smile. Zilian stood up and said, Young Master Lu, I will remember your kindness. If there is anything in the future, please inform me. Lian will do her best. Zilian's words were sincere. Luli was touched. Zilian was the princess of the Heaven Martial Kingdom. As long as she helped, wouldn't it be easy to open the teleportation array to the central state? But on second thought, he had killed Yu Lingshu. As soon as he left the Thousand Island Lake, powerful warriors of the Yu family would arrive, not to mention the royal kingdom. Going to the kingdom of the Heaven Frigid Kingdom was wishful thinking. Many thanks, Miss Lien. Lu Li cupped his fists in obeisance, and followed by Qiushue down a mountain. Walking on the winding stone stairs, Bai Qiushue was a bit afraid. If the gravity was as strong as before, her body wouldn't be able to stand it. Even though going down the mountain would be much easier than going up, Bai Qiushue still didn't dare to take the risk. She looked at Lu Li, who walked towards the stone stairs. Instantly, he felt the strong gravity enveloping him. He stepped back, shook his head, and said, "There is gravity. How about Lady Qiushue rest for a couple of hours?" "No, I am afraid that Shuang'er will act recklessly." So many things had happened on the mountain. The golden coffin flew away, and Lu Li's earth-shaking roar. Bai Qiushue knew Bai Xiaoshuang's character very well. The more she thought about it, the more worried she became. She made up her mind and said, Young Master Lu, please carry me down." "Carry you?" Lu Li's heart skipped a beat. He had flirted with Bai Qiushue before. If he were to do it again, he might not be able to control himself. But no man would say no to the request of a beauty. He nodded and bent down. Bai Qiushue put her arms around Lu Li's neck with a blushing face. Lu Li put his arms around Bai Qiushue's long and slender thighs and carried her on his back. Grunt, grunt, Lu Li could feel a delicate body on his back, a pretty girl's breath on his ear, and the amazing touch on his hand. Lu Li's body tightened up. His throat moved, and he swallowed some saliva. "Little White, let's go." He let out a beast-like roar and walked up the stairs in strides. As soon as he stepped on the stairs, Lu Li felt a surge of gravity pressing down on him. He almost lost his footing and fell down. When he went up, he had to climb up. Now that he was carrying a beauty on his back, how could he lose face? He clenched his teeth and hurried down. The further he went, the weaker the gravity was. His back was straightened. He exhaled in relief. Because of the gravity, Bai Qiushue was leaning on Lu Li's back. Lu Li could feel the elasticity on her chest. He felt his body was burning as if he had consumed another drop of origin blood. Level 1000, level 2000, level 3000. Lu Li could stand the pressure with ease. He slowed down out of instinct. He wanted to carry Bai Qiushue on his back for a while longer, hoping that this wonderful feeling could last. His mind was no longer on the winding mountain road. All he could think about was the feeling of that delicate body on his back. Smelling the fragrance coming out from Bai Qiushue's mouth, his eyes became misty. He had never had this feeling before. It was very exciting. Before he knew it, he was already at the end of the winding mountain road. But Lu Li was still carrying Bai Qiushue on his back. Bai Qiushue coughed in embarrassment and said, "Young Master Lu, we are here. You can put me down now." "Ah." Lu Li was embarrassed. He put Bai Qiushue down gently. He stole a glance at her. Bai Qiushue tidied up her clothes in a panic. Her pretty face was blushing. She was so beautiful. "Let's go," Bai Qiushue said embarrassedly after she tidied up her clothes. Lu Li nodded and said, Okay. Little White will lead the way." They found the way they came up. Little White was leading the way. Lu Li saw Little White jump down 7 stairs. He asked Bai Qiushue with concern, "Lady Qiushue, can you go down from here? How about I carry you on my back?" They could see many people down there. How could Bai Qiushue let Lu Li carry her on his back? She bit her lips and said, "No. Thank you, young Master Lu. I can do it." With that said, Bai Qiushue kicked the ground with one leg and jumped down 7 stairs. Even though she was in pain, she could manage it. Lu Li didn't say much. He stayed close to her, afraid that she might lose her balance and fall. "Sister, Lady Qiushue." Soon, there came many voices of surprise. Bai Qiushue was relieved to see that Bai Xiaoshuang and the others were fine. Little White sped up. Lu Li and Bai Qiushue sped up as well. It was faster to go down the mountain than to go up. In the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, they had reached the bottom. "Sister." Seeing that Bai Qiushue's dress was dyed red with blood, Bai Xiaoshuang rushed over with worry. Bai Rong and the others surrounded Lu Li to ask about the situation. For a moment, there was a lot of noise. "Lady Qiushue, Did you get the hidden treasures of the Dragon King? Before Luli could say anything, a cold voice came up. Chapter 192. Du Xiling and the other two warriors of the Heaven Frigid Kingdom were wounded by Yulingshu. Du Xiling thought he wouldn't be able to get the treasures if he went. So, he might as well come down to heal his wounds and wait for someone else to get the treasures. The giant golden coffin flew away, and that earth-shattering roar was heard. Du Xiling was very clear that something big must have happened on the mountain peak. The hidden treasures of the Dragon King had probably appeared. Bai Qiuxue and Luli came down safely, but the others were nowhere to be seen. Naturally, Du Xiling suspected that Bai Qiuxue and Luli had gotten the hidden treasures of Dragon King. At this moment, Autumn Snow had sustained heavy injuries, while Du Xiling and the other two had already recovered from their injuries. The three of them were at the middle stage of the Soul Pond realm, while Bai Qiuxue only had Bai Xiaoshuang and Bai Gu. The Three Kingdoms and the Thousand Island Lake had always been enemies. How could Du Xiling not be interested? Before entering the tomb of Dragon King, all the clans had made it clear that no young masters or young ladies from the top clans were to be harmed. Even if Du Xiling crippled Autumn Snow and the others, it didn't mean that he couldn't injure them. Even the strong warriors of the Heaven Frigid Kingdom could protect them. So why should Du Xiling be afraid? Seeing the coldness in Du Xiling's peach blossom eyes, Bai Qiuxue's face turned cold. Before she could say anything, Bai Xiaoshuang, who had a fiery temper, couldn't bear it anymore. She shouted angrily, Du Xiling, what do you mean? Who do you think you are? Why should we split the treasures with you? Bai Xiaoshuang said this angrily, without considering the content of her words. Warriors on Du Xiling's side suddenly lit up. So it seemed that Bai Qiuxue and Luli did get the hidden treasures of the Dragon King. Seeing so many pairs of greedy eyes, Autumn Snow was too lazy to explain. She said indifferently, Du Xiling, you want to take advantage of me? If you want to make a move, then bear the consequences yourself. Ha ha ha. Du Xiling looked up to the sky and laughed out loud. Shaking his head, he said, Autumn Snow, you're already injured to this extent, yet you're still so arrogant? Du Xiling, don't bully women. I only want half of the Dragon King's hidden treasures. Don't force me. At that time, the delicate beauty would lose an arm and a leg, and she wouldn't be able to get married. Besides, my brothers have admired you in Miss Shuang for a long time. If they can't control themselves and do something to you and your sister, bastard, Bai Xiaoshuang was completely enraged like a lioness. A ring flashed in her hand, and a beautiful longbow appeared in her hand. The purple moon mark on her neck also lit up. She was about to attack. Bai Rong and Bai Gu were also enraged. They all drew their weapons and were ready to fight. Bai Qiuxue raised her hand to stop them. She looked at Lu Li and said, Young Master Lu, can you do me a favor? Lu Li shrugged his shoulders and said, I am happy to serve Lady Qiuxue. All right. Autumn Snow pointed at Du Xiling and the dozens of people behind him and said, Help me break their legs. Wow, the crowd was in an uproar. Bai Qiuxue pulled Bai Xiaoshuang and walked away. At the same time, she asked Bai Gu and the rest to step back. As Bai Gu and the others retreated, their eyes flickered with disbelief. Luli was only at the latter stage of the Spirit Sea realm. Bai Qiuxue wanted him to fight against more than a dozen warriors by himself. More than half of them were at the Soul Pond realm, and 3 were at the middle stage of the Soul Pond realm. Luli didn't say anything. He didn't really want to expose his strength. Besides, if he offended Du Xiling, the consequences will be dire. But on second thought, even if he didn't do anything, Du Xiling would. Luli had a fight. Since it was a fight, Lu Li threw caution to the wind. The ring on his hand glowed, and the mighty heaven halberd appeared in his hand. He slowly lifted it up, pointed at Du Xiling and the others, and said, Lady Qiuxue has given the order. Guys, do you want to break your own legs, or do you want me to help you? Wow. Du Xiling and the others were in an uproar. Many people were swearing. Du Xiling was a bit surprised, and then he flew into a rage. How could a warrior at the latter stage of the Spirit Sea realm be so arrogant? Was this man an idiot? Destroy him. Do Xiling wave his hand at once. A group of people behind him flew over. Luli didn't move. He did the same thing he did at the peak of the mountain. He put his hands back, his chest moved up and down, took a deep breath, leaned his head forward, opened his mouth, and let out a shocking roar. Step back and cover your ears. When Luli stretched out his hands, Autumn Snow shouted in a low voice. At the same time, she ran back as fast as she could and covered her ears with her hands. Even though Bai Xiaoshuang and the others didn't understand the situation, they all stepped back and covered their ears after hearing Autumn Snow's solemn order. Roar! A roar that sounded like a tiger's or a dragon's came out. The space in front of Luli trembled. A gust of wind rushed forward, making everyone's clothes flutter in the wind. Bang, bang, bang. The more than a dozen people all fell to the ground with their hands covering their ears. The muscles on their faces were twitching. Blood came out from the corners of their mouths, eyes, noses, and ears. Everyone felt as if their souls were pricked by needles. They rolled around on the ground, holding their heads and howling. Swish! Luli moved. He dashed over like a sharp sword. He swung his mighty heaven halberd and chopped at Xiling's legs gently. Autumn Snow only told him to break their legs, not to destroy them, so Luli knew when to stop. Crack! The bones in Xiling's legs were broken. Luli swung his halberd again. Two people were smashed away, and the bones in their legs were broken as well. Luli flashed through the crowd like a ghost. He chopped down with his halberd as fast as lightning. Howls came out one after another. In a time for 2 breaths, more than a dozen people's legs were all cut off. Swish! Luli stepped back and stood where he was, but he faced Autumn Snow and the others. He put away his halberd, cupped his fists, and said, "Lady Autumn Snow, these people's legs are broken. Do you have any other instructions?" Silence. It was dead silence on Autumn Snow's side. Nobody said anything. Their eardrums were still ringing. Many people felt their ears were hurting. They couldn't hear clearly what Luli was saying. Not only them, warriors of the Heaven Martial Kingdom and the Heaven Cold Kingdom in the distance felt the same. Everyone looked at Luli like they were stupid. Their faces were filled with shock. The roar at the peak was made by Luli. Bai Xiaoshuang murmured absent-mindedly, as if she had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Luli's roar had completely overturned her understanding of Wu Dao. At the northern desert, warriors were strictly divided into ranks. Basically, it was difficult for warriors to kill warriors of higher ranks unless they had very advanced bloodline skills. Take Bai Xiaoshuang's Ziyu as an example. If she was at the peak of the Spirit Sea realm, she might be able to kill warriors at the initial stage of the Soul Pond realm with a sneak attack. But that was a sneak attack. Luli, on the other hand, crushed a group of warriors of the Soul Pond realm, including 3 at the middle stage of the Soul Pond realm, fair and square. They had no chance to fight back. What was that roar? Could it be a high-level Xian skill? Based on Bai Xiaoshuang's understanding of Xian skill, there was no one at the northern desert that could be this powerful, unless it was of the holy grade. But there was only one person of the Thousand Island Lake who had a holy grade Xian skill, the one from the Heaven Prison Island. The old man of Heaven Prison had been studying it for 3 years. If it was not a holy grade Xian skill, then it could only be a bloodline skill. The thing was, Luli didn't have a bloodline mark. Since he was not a bloodline warrior, how could he have a bloodline skill? Bai Xiaoshuang couldn't figure out. Bai Qiuxue, on the other hand, thought of a possibility. She looked at Luli with a frown for a moment and murmured, "Can it be the legendary, high-level Xian skill of the soul? P.S. Your subscriptions are so awesome. The old demon is throwing caution to the wind. He has used up all his stock. 8 more chapters. Today, 39 chapters have been published. The more awesome you are, the crazier the old demon is. Keep asking for paid subscriptions. Please read on QQ, and Chidian Genesis to subscribe to the Eternal Dragon Emperor. Chapter 193. Luli's roar shook heaven and earth. Even though Bai Qiuxue and the others had stepped back for more than 1,000 feet, they still felt their eardrums were vibrating and their souls were aching. Thinking back to that roar on the peak of the mountain, Autumn Snow remembered that at that moment she couldn't see or hear anything. She felt as though she had lost all her senses. Even if she was killed, she wouldn't know. This meant that the roar had shaken her soul, causing her to be unable to think or sense the outside world. This was very similar to the legendary soul-related profound skills, which was why Autumn Snow had such a conjecture. Soul-type profound skill. In the entire northern desert, there was only one person who understood it. That was the monarch of the Tianliang kingdom. She majored in soul mystic skills. Even the old man of Heaven prison felt it was a bit tricky when she released a mystic skill. Luli didn't have a bloodline mark, which was a fact that could not be changed. Therefore, Bai Qiushue believed that it was absolutely impossible for him to have bloodline skill. It could only be explained by Xian's skill of the soul. Did you get it from the Tomb of Dragon King? Bai Qiushue had seen Lu Li's information. If it weren't for Mingyu, Lu Li would have died during the battle at the Blood Evil Island. When he just got to the peak, he was almost killed by Yu Lingxiu. Therefore, Lu Li must not have understood this Xian skill before. He must have learned it recently. Thinking of this, Bai Qiushue was envious. With his Xian skill, Lu Li's cultivation speed was fast. If he didn't die prematurely, sooner or later, he would become a powerful warrior that could look down upon the northern desert. How did Lu Li become so strong? Su Fangfei and many others were dumbfounded. Su Fangfei had always been unhappy with Lu Li. As far as she was concerned, Lu Li and the Lu family were just dozens of stray dogs that sneaked in from the outside. Mingyu must have mistaken them for someone else. How could Lu Li be his young master? Mingyu never appeared again, nor did he send a message to the Su family. This made Su Fangfei believe this. When she went to the Blood Evil Island with Su Yaoyong for the first time, Lu Li was quite arrogant. Later on, at Su Qin's birthday banquet, Lu Li provoked by Xia Shuang in public, which made Su Fangfei's impression of Lu Li even worse. A bumpkin from the outside, a small warrior at the Spirit Sea realm. Su Fangfei looked down on Lu Li from the bottom of her heart. This bumpkin that she looked down upon showed his prowess today. He broke the legs of more than 10 warriors of the Soul Pond realm on his own. How could Su Fangfei believe it? How could he not be shocked? Brat, you actually dared to break my leg. If I don't kill your entire family, I'll change my surname to yours. On the other side, Du Xiling had already woken up. He howled and bellowed at the same time. His pair of peach blossom eyes were filled with rage and viciousness. If it were by Qiushue, Yi Yuhan, and Yu Lingxiu who broke his legs, he would not be so furious. Lu Li, a nobody, had broken his leg in public, which made him lose face. His anger could not be appeased. Some other young masters cursed as well. Lu Li was annoyed. He turned around and rushed towards the crowd without saying anything. When Du Xiling and the others saw this, they didn't dare to shout anymore. The triangular mark on Du Xiling's neck lit up, ready to attack at any time. Roar! Lu Li let out another dragon roar, which made everyone bleed from their eyes, ears, noses, and mouths. They hugged their heads and rolled on the ground. His body flew forward, and he raised his leg to stomp on Du Xiling's chest. Lu Li, don't kill them. Bai Qiushue was frightened. Du Xiling was the prince of the Heaven Frigid Kingdom. If he died here, it would lead to a war. Lu Li took some strength off his leg. A sound of bones breaking came out. Du Xiling's chest caved in. Nobody could tell how many rib bones were broken. Whoosh, whoosh. Lu Li stomped on Du Xiling's left and right hands in a flash, breaking the bones in his hands. Lu Li moved and circled around the other more than a dozen people. He broke all the bones in their arms, chests, and ribs. Only then did he walk back leisurely. The whole place was filled with cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. Miserable screams and howls of pain could be heard everywhere. Many people's faces were covered in blood, looking like ferocious ghosts. It was a ghastly sight. Su Fangfei and the other young ladies moved closer to Bai Qiushue in fear. The way they looked at Lu Li was different from before. It was rare for the young ladies to see such a cruel and merciless person with such cruel means. Lu Li was like a demon to them. Let's go. Bai Qiushue's expressions didn't change much. She waved her hand to let the others go and find a way out. The young ladies of the Heaven-Frigid Kingdom didn't come over, nor were they injured. Later, they would heal Du Xiling and the others. As long as nobody died, Bai Qiushua wouldn't worry about anything serious. Everyone walked forward in silence. Luli was still staying at the back, keeping a low profile, but nobody dared to ignore Luli anymore. Some young ladies would look back at Luli from time to time, as if they were looking at a ferocious beast. They would look away after one glance. Bai Xiaoshuang kept asking Bai Qiushua about what happened up there, and if Bai Qiushua really got the hidden treasures of the Dragon King. Bai Qiushua was injured, so she wasn't in the mood to talk to Bai Xiaoshuang. She just casually explained. Bai Xiaoshuang was bored. She ran to the back of the team and asked Luli. She didn't fear Luli at all. Her attitude towards Luli was much better. Her pretty face was in high spirits, and she was very excited. Luli had something on his mind, so he wasn't interested in chatting with Bai Xiaoshuang. He just gave her some perfunctory answers and answered whatever she asked. He didn't avoid mentioning that Yu Lingshu was controlled by the demon and almost killed all of them. Eventually, Lu Li and Bai Qiushua worked together and killed Yu Lingshu. Bai Xiaoshuang and the others were shocked and felt sorry at the same time. The coffin of the Dragon King flew away. All the valuable treasures of the Dragon King were in there. They talked about it while walking. Lu Li said nothing. He was thinking about the Dragon Roar skill and what kind of situation he would encounter when he got out. Okay, we will camp here. Bai Gu, Bai Rong, and Bai Ying, go and find the exit. We must leave the tomb of the Dragon King as soon as possible. If anything happens, send the signal detonator as soon as possible. Bai Qiushua stopped at an open space at the foot of a hill and ordered. Bai Gu and the others each brought 1 or 2 people with them and ran to all directions. Bai Qiushua brought some young ladies to a small cave nearby. After a while, Bai Qiushua came out in a clean dress. Luli, don't worry. I will ask Uncle Lung to do it. Seeing Luli sitting on the ground with his legs crossed in silence, Bai Qiushua walked over and said in a low voice. Luli opened his eyes and nodded. Bai Qiushua sat on the side with her legs crossed to tend to her wounds. Swish, after an hour, Bai Gu came back with his men. He shouted from afar, Lady Qiushua, we have found the exit. Send the signal and gather everyone. Bai Qiushua didn't recover much even after an hour of healing, but she immediately ordered Bai Gu to send the signal detonator to get Bai Ying and the others back. When Bai Ying and the others came back, Bai Qiushua led the way towards the north in a formidable array. Bai Gu was leading the way. After running for more than 3 miles, a cliff appeared in front of them. There was a black stone door at the bottom of the cliff. At the moment, the stone door was open, revealing a dark opening. Squeak, squeak. Bai Gu took the lead. He took out his weapon and rushed in first. After a flash of white light, Bai Gu disappeared. Bai Qiushua waved her hand and led the others into the stone door. Buzzing. After a flash of white light, Lu Li suddenly opened his eyes. He looked around at once, and his eyes lit up. The scenery was familiar. They were teleported to the hall at the entrance. In front of them were 9 doors with the words life and death written on them. We are out. All the families had sent people to this hall before. They would be completely safe after they got out of the cliff of purgatory through the tunnel. Lu Li, let's go out first. It will be best if everything is fine. If anything, I will ask Uncle Long for help. Bai Qiushua walked to Lu Li and said. Lu Li nodded. Bai Qiushua led the others and rushed out in strides. Lu Li followed them. The mighty heaven halberd appeared in his hand. He was ready to risk his life at any time. P.S. Yesterday, 39 chapters were published. All the manuscripts were published. This is the latest version. The old demon is exhausted from editing the manuscripts. These 2 chapters were written on the 6th. Tell me the pattern of the updates later. In a few days, there will be a fixed update at 8 o'clock every morning. Usually, there will be 3 chapters a day. On weekends, there will be 4 chapters. Well, even though it was Monday today, everyone worked hard and there were 4 chapters. Lu Li bowed again to thank everyone for their support. The old demon would finish the book. Lu Ling's origin, the origin of Little White, the secret of the Silver Dragon bloodline, the supreme grace of Lu Ren Huang, the way out of the Cyan Phoenix race, the might of the 10 divine skills, the warriors of the Central Plains vying for supremacy, the passionate collision of warriors of different bloodlines. The follow-up would be unfolded one by one. The magnificent plot was about to begin. Chapter 194. The time it took for half an incense stick to burn, one incense stick to burn. The cliff of purgatory could not see what was going on inside, nor could the people inside see what was going on outside. Luli thought it had been the time it took for one incense stick to burn. Bai Qiuxue must have found Bai Long. Hiding here was not a solution. He thought about it and took off the ghost mask. Bai Qiuxue said the Yu family might have seen how he killed Yu Lingxiu. At that time, he was wearing the ghost mask. It would be easier for him to get away with it if he took it off now. Luli put away the mighty heaven halberd after some thoughts, and then swaggered out of the tunnel. A white glare flashed by. Luli felt he was in midair and was falling down rapidly. Swish! A man flew over, grabbed Lu Li's robe, and jumped to the left. The ring on Lu Li's hand was glowing. He was ready to release the dragon's roar at any time. He let his guard down when he saw who was grabbing him. It was Bai Gu. Bai Gu grabbed Lu Li and landed diagonally to the left. There was an iron-armored ship over there. Bai Qiuxue and Bai Xiaoshuang were all on it. Bai Long. Lu Li saw a white-haired, middle-aged man on the ship. He was relieved. Bai Qiuxue had asked Bai Long for help. His safety should be guaranteed now. Wait! Right at that moment, a shout like thunder came from the cliff of purgatory. 5 streaks of psychic power locked on a Lu Li. A voice that Lu Li was familiar with came out. This man looks like the one who killed Lingxiu. Stop them. Swish, swish, swish. 5 men immediately flew over from the cliff. Lu Li looked over and found that the 5 men all had powerful qi and energy. One of them was familiar to him. It was Yu Feijia, Lord Yu. That night, at the Wuling County, Lu Li was badly injured. But he clearly saw Lord Yu's face in the stone fort. Lord Yu left a deep impression on him. The Yu family really sent people here. 5 warriors of the eternal realm? Lu Li's heart sank. Bai Gu's expressions changed. Bai Xiaoshuang and the others on the ground were also anxious. Only Bai Qiuxue was calm. A cold snort came out. A surge of qi and energy as cold as a 10,000-year-old glacier spread out. Bai Long said, "What do you want?" Someone of the Yu family almost wanted to kill Lu Li right away. But on hearing Bai Long's words, they hesitated. This Bai Long's combat strength was too daunting. If it was a one-on-one battle, none of the 5 of them were his match. Buzz, an expert of the Yu family, took out an ancient war chariot, and the 5 of them boarded the chariot. Bai Gu was relieved. He brought Lu Li to the iron-armored ship and landed on the deck. Even though he was standing not too far away from Bai Long, Lu Li still felt unsafe. This was because the 5 divine wills had been locked onto him, and the dense killing intent made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He didn't even dare to breathe loudly. An expert of this level was definitely not someone he could fight against. He would be smashed to pieces with just one move. The 5 warriors of the Yu family stood on the golden chariot, more than 1,000 feet away from the iron-armored ship. Yu Feijia looked at Lu Li carefully. The murderous intent in his eyes became more intense. He sneered and said, "I was wondering who it was. It's actually you, you little bastard." The other powerful warriors of the Yu family all looked at him. Yu Feijia explained in a low voice, "I think his name is Lu Li, the younger brother of that Fire Phoenix birth." Oh, the killing intent of the other 4 warriors of the Yu family soared. A slightly older warrior with gray hair and an aquiline nose glanced over Lu Li and then looked at Bai Long. He said in a deep voice, "Lord Long, our young family patriarch, Yu Lingxiu is dead. This man is the murderer. Please give him to us." Swish, swish, swish. Bai Xiaoshuang and the others looked even worse. Bai Ying and the others looked gloomy. Bai Qiuxue looked at them and secretly felt annoyed. She should have let them all go into the cabin. They were in such a panic. Weren't they clearly telling the Yu family that Lu Li was the murderer of Yu Lingxiu? Bai Long's hair was as white as snow. His face looked like it was carved with knives and axes. His expression was cold and domineering. He stared at the old man of the Yu family coldly and said, "You fine are you senile? What realm is this man at?" "Later stage of the spirit sea realm. Your young family patriarch seems to be at the middle stage of the soul pond realm. He also has 6th rank bloodline. How can he kill you, Lingshu? Are you trying to start a war with the Thousand Island Lake by pestering us endlessly?" Impressive. Lu Li and Bai Qiushue's eyes lit up. Bai Lung's tone seemed to be overbearing and cruel, but it was reasonable. People who didn't know the truth would agree with him. There were 3 iron-armored ships nearby. Many powerful warriors had been alarmed. They were standing on the deck to enjoy the show. Hearing Bai Lung's words, several streaks of psychic power scanned Lu Li. Many people showed signs of hesitation. Lu Li was at the later stage of the spirit sea realm. How could he kill Yu Lingshu? On hearing that Yu Lingshu was dead, the powerful warriors of the families on the iron-armored ships didn't worry too much. The reason was that the jade talisman of life of their young masters and young ladies was still intact, which meant that they were still alive. If Bai Qiushue and the others could come out, then the disciples of their families could come out as well. The 5 warriors of the Yu family frowned. They looked at Lu Li for a bit, having some doubts as well. After all, Lu Li's realm was too low. It was hard for warriors of the Spirit Sea realm to kill warriors of the Soul Pond realm, let alone those at the middle stage of the Soul Pond realm. Yu Lingshu had 6th rank bloodline. Yu Fainan thought about it. A crystal appeared in his hand. Xian energy glowed in his hand. A picture suddenly appeared in midair. It was the scene where Lu Li hacked at Yu Lingshu's head with the mighty heaven halberd. It's okay, it's okay. Lu Li was relieved. Luckily, he didn't wear the ghost mask or the mighty heaven halberd. Otherwise, it would be pointless to say anything now. Bai Qiushue, however, frowned. The picture was clear. Even though Lu Li had changed his robe and was wearing the ghost mask, his back and body shape were too similar. "That's him." Yu Feijia made a comparison and shouted angrily. A golden saber appeared in his hand. A blue sword mark was glistening on his neck. Killing intent surged out from him like monstrous waves. "Yu Feijia, if you dare to make a move, believe it or not, I will kill you in one move." Bai Lung took 2 steps forward and blocked off all the killing intent. Lu Li, Bai Qiushue, and the others felt relieved. A silver soft sword appeared in Bai Lung's hand. A purple crescent mark was glistening on his neck. He was also of the 7th rank bloodline. Killing intent surged out from him. He looked at the 5 warriors of the Yu family coldly and said, "How dare you kill warriors of the Thousand Island Lake without any evidence? Does the Yu family want to be exterminated? I have sent a message to my family patriarch. Why don't you try?" Hiss, hiss, Bai Lung's words made people gasp. The old man of Heaven Prison's overbearing manner was famous at the Northern Desert. Once, a patriarch of a 4th rank family of the Heaven Martial Kingdom fought at the Thousand Island Lake. The old man of Heaven Prison killed all the powerful warriors of that 4th rank family in front of the family patriarch of the Z family. Many years ago, the 3 royal families gathered many powerful warriors of the 3 kingdoms to attack the Thousand Island Lake. In the end, they suffered great losses and had to retreat in embarrassment. On the warlord list of the Northern Desert, the old man of Heaven Prison was ranked number 3. He had lived for more than 2,000 years. If he was alarmed, the entire Northern Desert would be stirred up by a storm of blood. "Bai Lung, how impressive you are." Right at that moment, a sneer came out. An old man in a green robe walked to the deck from an iron-armored ship. He was the most powerful warrior of the Z family. The green-robed old man glanced over to Bai Lung and said, "Bai Lung, the Yu family lost a young family patriarch, a genius of the 6th rank bloodline. We have made an agreement earlier that no killing is allowed in here. If Yu Lingshu really died in his hands, and you don't want to hand him over, the Heaven Martial Kingdom will fight, right?" Chapter 195. Z Huanyu. Bai Lung stared at the green-robed, powerful warrior of the Z family. His expressions were even colder. Bai Qiushue looked solemn when she heard the name. This was a famous, powerful warrior of the Heaven Martial Kingdom. He was at the same realm as Bai Long, the peak of the Eternal Realm, half a step into the Noble Lord realm. The most important thing was this man also had 7th rank bloodline. His rank on the Northern Desert Warlord list was similar to Bai Long's. Zi Huanyu's appearance represented the attitude of the Heaven Martial Kingdom. The Yu family was affiliated to the Zi family. Now that Yu Lingxiu was killed, Zi Huanyu had to do something. Bai Long regretted that he didn't bring any powerful warriors with him. He thought nobody dared to mess around by the Thousand Island Lake. As for informing the old man of Heaven Prison, that was just a bluff. How could he disturb the old man of Heaven Prison for such a trivial matter? Even if Lu Li was killed, he wouldn't dare to disturb the old man of Heaven Prison. Uncle Lung, Bai Qiuxue called in a low voice. There was a trace of pleading in her eyes. A jade talisman appeared in her hand with 2 words written on it, Heaven Prison. Bai Long was surprised. Bai Qiuxue's intention of taking out the jade talisman was clear. She could crush the jade talisman to inform the old man of Heaven Prison when it was necessary. Bai Long looked at Lu Li, wondering what magic this young man had. How could he be valued by Qiuxue so much that she even took out the jade talisman given to her by the old man of Heaven Prison? Bai Long nodded to himself. Lu Li was young, but he was calm in such a situation. Coldness glowed in his eyes, as if he was ready to risk his life at any time. He was much more powerful than many young masters of big families. Bai Long thought about it and said, I am sad that Yu Lingxiu is dead, but you have no proof. How can you conclude that it was done by a man of the Thousand Island Lake just by looking at his back? If this man was at the Soul Pond realm, then it would be okay. But he is only at the Spirit Sea realm. Do you think it is possible? Without proof, you cannot take this man away today. If you want to fight, then I will fight with you. Domineering. Lu Li's blood was boiling. This was the pride of a powerful warrior, and this was the bearing of the number 3 warrior of the Thousand Island Lake. Even though he was facing 6 powerful warriors of the Eternal Realm, he was not afraid at all. On his back stood the old man of Heaven Prison and the entire Thousand Island Lake. He could not lower his head. Dignity was often more important than bleeding and life and death. Zi Huanyu's expression turned a bit ugly, but he didn't say anything else. The Yu family members discussed in a low voice for a moment. Yu Feijia said, You want proof? It's very simple. Yu Feijia pointed to the ring on Lu Li's hand and said, Let us check his interspatial ring. We want to check his weapon and that mask. If he doesn't have it in his spatial ring, we'll leave immediately. How about it? Oh, both Lu Li and Bai Qiuxue trembled slightly. Yu Feijia had found Lu Li's Achilles heel. The ghost mask and the halberd were too unique. Once they were found out from the interspatial ring, there would be no way to defend themselves. Bai Long noticed what Lu Li and Bai Qiuxue were doing out of the corner of his eyes. He sighed to himself. These two were still too inexperienced. Now that they had confessed without being pressed, the Yu family was 100% sure that Lu Li was the murderer. Yu Feijia and Yu Feinong looked at each other. Coldness grew in their eyes. Yu Feinong and Zi Huanyu made some eye contact. Zi Huanyu said, Bai Long, ask him to hand over his interspatial ring. Otherwise, we will have to take him by force. Even if the old man of Heaven Prison wants to kill me, I will not hesitate. Zi Huanyu added, Bai Long, the leaders of all the families are here. They can all be witnesses. If there is no proof in this man's interspatial ring, I will apologize to this young man. If you don't ask him to hand over his interspatial ring, I will have to do it by force. As soon as Zi Huanyu finished his words, the air seemed to be frozen. The atmosphere was quite depressing. Surging killing intent spread over, which made Su Fengfei and the other young ladies terrified. Swish! The 2 iron-armored ships nearby moved back slowly, as if they were afraid of being accidentally injured in the fight. Clearly, they were making way for Bai Long and the others so that they could enjoy the show. Bai Long was in a dilemma. Lu Li was a talent, but he was not a talent of the Bai family. Also, he had not awakened his bloodline. As far as Bai Long was concerned, his achievements would always be limited. However, Bai Qiuxue was begging him. Before Madame Yin came, She paid him a visit and asked him to take care of Lu Li. If Lu Li didn't kill anyone, of course, Bai Lung wouldn't have any hesitation. The key was that Yu Lingxiu was indeed killed by Lu Li. No matter what happened, the Yu family must have an explanation for Yu Lingxiu's death. Zi Huanyu needed an explanation as well. Now, reason was on the side of the Heaven Martial Kingdom. Uncle Lung, Bai Qiushue called again in a low voice. Bai Lung turned around and looked into her beautiful eyes. He saw the strong will to beg in her eyes. Bai Lung sighed and waved his hand. He made a gesture to the chief patriarch of the Ding family, Ding Gue. Ding Gue understood. He rushed into the cabin like a bolt of lightning. The iron-armored ship glowed and dashed towards the Thousand-Island Lake like a shooting star. Swish! At the same time, Bai Lung kicked on the deck and flew towards Yu Fainong and the others. From his abdomen, a 9-layered altar appeared in midair. He flew up, pointed his sword at Yu Fainong, and said, "Since you're going to take him by force, then there is nothing more to say. Come on, fight with me. If you can kill me, then take him away." The 9-layered altar, of course, was Bai Lung's fate wheel. Fate wheels were cast from the fate wheel realm. At the peak of the fate wheel realm, there would be 3 fate wheels on top of each other. At the peak of the eternal realm, there would be 9 fate wheels on top of each other. 9 fate wheels complemented each other, and their power would be doubled. Miraculous Tao rhythms and profound meanings could be engraved in the fate wheel, which could turn the fate wheel into a horrifying killing weapon. Once the fate wheel was out, it meant that Bai Lung had shown his sword. Yu Feijia and the 2 patriarchs of the Yu family were shocked. Bai Lung's fighting power was well known at the northern desert. If he were to fight with all he had, the 5 of them might have to stay at the Thousand-Island Lake. Yu Fainong shouted angrily. A golden glare came out from his abdomen. A huge 8-layered fate wheel appeared in midair. Yu Fainong shouted, "Since Bai Lung is being unreasonable, then let's fight. The northern desert belongs to the people of the northern desert, not the Thousand-Island Lake." Whoosh! Yu Fainong flew onto the huge 8-layered fate wheel and dashed towards Bai Lung. Yu Feijia and the other patriarchs made up their minds and released their own fate wheels. Yu Feijia had a 6-layered fate wheel, and the other 3 had 4-layered fate wheels. Kill! The 3 of them bellowed and followed Yu Fainong. Yu Feijia, on the other hand, slowed down his 6-layered fate wheel and stayed at the back. "Go!" Bai Lung shouted. The purple moon on his neck lit up and suddenly shot into the 9-layered fate wheel. The 9-layered fate wheel suddenly separated and turned into 9 fate wheels, which spun violently. With endless energy, they pressed towards Yu Fainong and the others. "Watch out!" The disappearance of Bai Lung's purple moon made Yu Fainong feel threatened. The flame mark on his neck lit up and enveloped his entire body. At the same time, Yu Fainong injected some flames into his fate wheel and controlled it to bump against one of Bai Lung's fate wheels. The speed of the fate wheel was too fast. Yu Fainong's fate wheel collided with Bai Lung's fate wheel in an instant. However, what surprised Yu Fainong and many other powerful warriors watching the fight was that Bai Lung's fate wheel collapsed and turned into ashes. "No, this is fake. It is a phantom image." Yu Fainong suddenly came to his senses and shouted. However, it was too late. A patriarch of the Yu family controlled his own fate wheel and collided with Bai Lung's fate wheel. With a huge explosion and space trembling, the patriarch of the Yu family's 4-layered fate wheel exploded. Poof! With his fate wheel destroyed, the patriarch was severely injured at once. His vitality was greatly damaged. He aged countless years. His skin was aging and losing its luster at a speed visible to the naked eye. He was falling down like a kite with a broken string. Hiss, hiss. Chapter 196. The cultivation of martial arts was to defy the heavens and change one's fate. To the people of the northern desert, changing one's fate had 2 meanings. One was to change one's fate, to become outstanding, to live a life of luxury and wealth. Another meaning was to change one's lifespan and obtain a longer life. One fate wheel could add 500 years to one's life. Theoretically, A warrior at the peak of the eternal realm could have 4,500 years of life with 9 fate wheels. Of course, the increase in lifespan after the fate wheel was much less. It was impossible to really live for more than 4,000 years. But after reaching the peak of the eternal realm, there was definitely a lifespan of 2,000 to 3,000 years. Martial artists would find it harder and harder to cultivate in the future because they needed more and more spiritual materials. Not to mention small martial artists. Even large clans would find it hard to find all of them. Every breakthrough required a very long time. If a martial artist did not have a long lifespan, how could they break through continuously? How could he defy the heavens? Defying the heavens and changing one's fate. Only by changing one's fate could one defy the heavens. Therefore, the fate wheel was very important to a warrior. If the fate wheel was destroyed, it would be fatal to the warrior. Not only would it greatly damage his vitality, but it would also be the end of his life. The success rate of forming a fate wheel would be greatly reduced unless he used countless rare, mystical materials. If he did not reforge his fate wheel, he would die of old age in no time. Bai Lung destroyed the 4-layered fate wheel of an elder of the Yu family with one move. This elder's fate was sealed. The Yu family would never spend a fortune to reforge a fate wheel for him. The only ending that awaited him was death. The people nearby did not care about this elder's life or death. What they cared about was Bai Lung's means. At this moment, many people understood that Bai Lung's fate wheels were fake. 8 of the fate wheels were just shadows. The real fate wheels were not separated and crashed into the Yu family patriarch's fate wheel. The difference between a 9-layered fate wheel and a 4-layered fate wheel was too great. Most importantly, Bai Lung had used his bloodline divine skill, and the purple moon was hidden in his fate wheel. The power of the bloodline divine skill would increase according to the realm of the martial artist. The power of Bai Lung's bloodline divine skill was incomparable to that of Bai Qiuxue and Bai Xiaxuan. The purple moon was hiding in a 9-layered fate wheel. When it crashed into the fate wheel of the Yu family elder, the purple moon suddenly attacked and tore the fate wheel of the Yu family elder into pieces. Powerful. The elders of many clans sighed inwardly. Even if they had guessed Bai Lung's means, no one would be able to crack it. The 9 fate wheels looked exactly the same as the real thing. No one could tell them apart. If his fate wheel hadn't reached level 9, the result would be the same when he collided with Bai Lung's fate wheel. The number 3 warrior of the Thousand Island Lake deserved his reputation. Xiao, a patriarch of the Yu family, flew down, grabbed the unconscious patriarch, and rushed towards the iron-armored ship not far away. There were many Xian beasts in the lake. If they fell into the lake, they would be eaten alive. Lord Huanyu, Yu Fainong roared at Zi Huanyu. He was very clear that the few of them were definitely not a match for Bai Lung. If Zi Huanyu did not make a move, the remaining 4 members of the Yu family would all die here. Bai Lung, you're going too far. Zi Huanyu's face was filled with rage. If he didn't show up in such a situation, all the clans in the Tianwu kingdom would be disheartened. A 9-layered fate wheel appeared in his lower abdomen. He flew onto the fate wheel and turned into a beam of white light, shooting straight into the air above Bai Lung's head. Buzz! The purple flower on Zi Huanyu's neck glowed. The 9-layered fate wheel glowed in 9 colors. Then a shocking scene took place. The 9-colored fate wheel spun quickly. Petals flew out from the 9-colored fate wheel, covering an area with a radius of more than 1,000 feet. Flower petals rained down from the sky. They were colorful, and the sky was filled with flower petals. It was so beautiful that it was intoxicating. Miraculously, Bai Lung suddenly disappeared in the rain of petals. Not only could he not be seen, but even psychic power could not detect him. Bai Lung did not attack. Formation of blossoms. Someone shouted in surprise. This was a unique skill of the Z family. It could trap any powerful warriors of the same realm. Bai Lung and the others could not detect him. They must be trapped in there. Go in and hurt him. Don't kill him. Zi Huanyu stood on the fate wheel with pride and shouted to Yu Fainong and the others. Yu Fainong was excited. He rushed into the sea of flowers. Kill! A patriarch of the Yu family and the patriarch who sent the warriors back to the iron-armored ship rushed in as well. Euphrasia was the only one who didn't go. Whoosh! Euphrasia stood on the six-layered fate wheel with pride. The fate wheel glared and whizzed away like a shooting star. He didn't rush into the sea of flowers. Instead, he rushed towards the iron-armored ship in the distance. Bai Long was trapped in the formation of blossoms. Zihuan said it hurt him, but not to kill him. If so, what was the point of going in? He might as well go and kill Lu Li. What was the purpose of their fight? It was Lu Li. Euphrasia's fate wheel was six-layered. It was fast, times faster than the iron-armored ship. Ding Gui controlled the iron-armored ship to fly away for only a short while. In a time for more than a dozen breaths, Euphrasia had caught up with the iron-armored ship. He stared at Lu Li, who was standing on the deck. Murderous intent surged out from him like raging waves. Swish, swish, swish. When a group of people on the deck saw Euphrasia flying towards them, their faces instantly turned ugly. Su Fengfei and the others even moved to the corner quietly, trying to stay away from Lu Li in case they were implicated. The only ones that didn't move were by Qiu Xue and by Xia Shuang. Bai Gu stood a couple of feet away from Lu Li and didn't move either. Instead, the three of them took out their weapons. Ding Gui walked out with two warriors of the Fate Wheel realm and stood next to Bai Qiu Xue and Bai Xia Shuang. The three of them looked solemn. They were all at the Fate Wheel realm, but Euphrasia was at the Eternal realm. 2 miles, 1 mile, 1,000 feet. Ding Gui and the other two had released their Fate Wheels. Ding Gui's was 3-layered, and the other two were 2-layered. Lu Li spread his hands and was ready to release Dragon Roar. Bai Qiu Xue held up a jade talisman in her hand, which was glaring. She shouted, "Euphrasia, if you dare to attack, I will crush the jade talisman right away. Our forefather will be here in an instant. All the warriors of the Yu family that came here this time will die." Bai Qiu Xue's threat was powerful. Euphrasia stopped his fate wheel. He felt a headache. Of course, he knew Bai Qiu Xue and Bai Xia Shuang well. The two girls were the favorite juniors of the old man of Heaven Prison. He had them with him all year round to guide them in cultivation. The jade talisman must be real. As soon as the jade talisman was broken, the old man of Heaven Prison would make a move right away. The big families of the northern desert had experienced the temper of this old man. As long as he didn't make a move, there would be blood when he did. Maybe the warriors of the Yu family would really stay at the Thousand Island Lake forever. The thing was the humiliation Lu Ling brought him, the death of Yu Lingxiu, the destruction of a patriarch of the Yu family by Bai Long, and the disgrace of the Yu family. How could he just let these things go? No, Euphrasia shouted while clenching his teeth. The Yu family was a prestigious family of the northern desert. If they were to cower this time, the Yu family would lose all their prestige and become a laughingstock to all the people of the northern desert. Swish! Euphrasia controlled his fate wheel and smashed it forward with endless killing intent and overbearingness. Ding Gui and the other two controlled their fate wheels to fight back. A mark of a sword blade appeared on Euphrazia's neck. He hacked down with his saber. A streak of fiery red sword light spread out, tearing the sky apart and aiming at Lu Li. Boom! As soon as the two fate wheels bumped against each other, Ding Gui's fate wheel was smashed away. His face turned pale. He wobbled in midair and almost fell down. But Euphrasia didn't make any reaction. He just controlled his fate wheel to bump against the other twos. Lu Li, get away! Bai Qiu Xue shouted in a delicate voice. She felt a sense of powerlessness from the depth of her soul as she saw the horrifying qi and energy that could tear apart the heaven and earth. I can't get away. Lu Li wanted to, but he was shaken by Euphrazia's pressure. He couldn't move at all. He could only watch as the sword light pierced through the air and approached him. P.S. Today's 4 chapters are done. I want to post another one, but I slept for 4 hours yesterday. I am exhausted. I need to get some sleep. I will work overtime tonight. Tomorrow, I will update at a fixed time. I will update at 8 o'clock in the morning. I will finish all the chapters in one go so that you won't have to wait. Chapter 197. Roar. Even though he couldn't move his body, Luli shouted with all his might and released his dragon roar skill. He was not a man who would wait for death without a fight. The roar was earth-shattering, causing ripples in the air and the seawater below to tumble. A strong wind blew. Ding Gui was already on the verge of collapse on his life wheel. The roar caused him to tumble down to the ground. Thump, thump, thump by Qiushuef, by Xiaoshuang, and Bai Gu were forced to step back. They sat on the ground with their hands covering their ears. They kept groaning in pain. Su Fangfei and the others were worse off. Many young masters and young ladies were rolling on the deck. Blood was coming out from their mouths, noses, eyes, and eardrums. Yu Lingxiu seemed to be affected as well. The sword light that was spreading over started to tremble and then collapsed. His fate will slow down a bit. His eyes were filled with surprise. Swish! Luli suddenly felt the pressure on him was gone. He could move now. He released his bloodline skill at once, burning blood. The halberd appeared in his hand. He kicked on the deck and rushed towards Euphrasia like a sharp sword. In midair, he let out another earth-shattering roar. What does that sound? Powerful warriors of different families on the iron-armored ships in the distance were shocked. Even though they were some distance away, they still felt it was deafening. It was like a roar of a huge beast, which made many people's blood tumble. Some people used their psychic power to check, only to find a funny scene. Luli flew out, swung a huge halberd, and smashed at Euphragia's head. A warrior of the Spirit Sea realm smashing at the Eternal Realm? This scene was so uncoordinated. Luli couldn't even get close to a warrior of the Fate Wheel realm, let alone the Eternal Realm. Luli was about to hit Euphrasia. Euphrasia was shaken twice by the two roars, but he had no reaction. He let Luli get close to him because he was surprised. He was wondering what Xian skill Luli was using that could be so overbearing. Also, at this moment, Euphrasia was sure that Luli killed Yu Lingxiu. Luli's roar had the power to fight against warriors of the Soul Pond realm. The halberd in his hand was more proof. Looking at the halberd piercing through the air, Euphrasia sneered. He didn't do much. He just reached out one hand and grabbed at the halberd. He wanted Luli to see the power of the Eternal Realm, to feel the power of a powerful warrior. Bang! The battle halberd carried the force of wind and thunder and heavily smashed onto Euphragia's big hand. The inside of Euphragia's hand shone brightly, and the profound energy actually condensed into a profound energy glove. Boom! A muffled sound came out. Euphragia's arm trembled slightly. A glint of astonishment flashed through his eyes. He didn't expect Luli's strength to be so great. On the other hand, Luli's face was full of astonishment. His full force strike was easily caught by Euphrasia with his bare hands. Furthermore, Euphragia's hand was completely fine. He wanted to pull back his halberd, but he could not move it at all. Euphrasia waved his arm forcefully. Luli was knocked away, and his halberd was thrown away. The fate wheel under Euphrasia glowed. Before Li could react, Euphrasia grabbed Li's neck and lifted him up in the air. Li felt like he was pinched by a pincer hand. He couldn't even breathe. He stared at Euphrasia in rage. Xian energy glowed on one of his legs, and he kicked at Euphragia's abdomen. Bang! Xian energy emerged outside of Euphragia's body and condensed into a shield. Li felt like he had kicked against an iron plate. Li's leg and arm struck out like lightning again, aiming at Euphragia's head and his crotch respectively. Clank, clank. Similarly, Euphragia condensed a shield with Xian energy and blocked Li's attack easily. He said with a mocking smile, "Bastard, do whatever you can. Let's see if you can hurt even a hair of mine." Swish! Euphragia used his other hand to hit at Li's chest with the hilt of his saber. Sounds of bones cracking came out. All the ribs in Li's chest were broken. Roar! Li didn't care. He endured the pain, and his chest was heaving up and down. He opened his mouth and roared at Euphragia's face. At the same time, He spat out a mouthful of blood all over Yu Feijia's face. The distance was so close that the roar was almost right next to Yu Feijia's ears. Yu Feijia showed a slight expression of pain on his face. He closed his eyes out of instinct when he was hit by the blood. He loosened his grip on Lu Li. Lu Li clenched his teeth, swung his arm, and punched at Yu Feijia's face. At the same time, he kicked Yu Feijia's abdomen with his knee. Bang! This time, Yu Feijia's reaction was a bit slower. His face was bleeding. Lu Li took advantage of the momentum and retreated. He fell into the lake. Bastard! I will tear you apart. Yu Feijia was hit and kicked by Lu Li due to his carelessness. Even though he managed to react in the end, he didn't suffer any serious injury. However, at the moment, there were several psychic powers locked onto them. Yu Feijia felt humiliated. He wanted Lu Li to have a taste of desperation and die in desperation. Instead, he was disgraced. Yu Feijia flew down in rage. He caught up with Lu Li, who was falling down in an instant. His saber was glistening, and he cut at Lu Li's left shoulder. He wanted to cut Lu Li into pieces. Yu Feijia stopped. Bai Qiuxue had come to her senses. Seeing that Lu Li was about to be cut, she shouted. Bai Xia Shuang and Bai Gu sighed. Judging by Yu Feijia's situation, nobody could stop him. Bai Lung hadn't come yet. He must be stalled. Ding Gue was injured. The other two warriors of the Ding family were too weak. Nobody could stop Yu Feijia. Seeing that Yu Feijia didn't stop, Bai Qiuxue was about to crush the Jade Talisman with Xian energy in her hand. At the tomb of Dragon King, Lu Li had helped her a lot and saved her twice. Bai Qiuxue was ready to risk everything. Even if she would be scolded by the old man of Heaven Prison, she wouldn't hesitate. Buzzing. Right at that moment, the waves suddenly surged up. Then, the waves rushed up to the sky. Water splashed everywhere. A surge of horrifying qi and energy came from under the water. Nobody could move at once. Bai Qiuxue's hand, that was about to crush the Jade Talisman, stopped in midair. Yu Feijia's soul trembled. At that moment, he also felt he could not move. A very strange force enveloped him. He felt there was an inexplicable force suppressing him from all sides. How? Yu Feijia's mind was in turmoil. He knew very well what this force was. This was the force of heaven and earth. He was using the force of heaven and earth to suppress him and freeze him in this world. This kind of force was hard to come by. Only by perceiving some special profound meaning in heaven and earth could one have it. To have this kind of force, one had to be at least at the Noble Lord Realm. Noble Lord Realm? Can it be the old man of Heaven Prison? Yu Feijia was getting more and more frightened. The old man of Heaven Prison had force. Relying on this force, the old man of Heaven Prison could fight several warriors of the Noble Lord Realm alone. This was one of the most powerful means in the world. I am doomed, Yu Feijia sighed to himself. Now that such a powerful warrior had made a move, could he still survive? Swish, swish, the water droplets that were flying all over the sky suddenly gathered together in midair. Then, under the shocked stares of many, a huge hand was formed. The hand was as big as a dragon or an elephant, just like the god's arm of Dum of the mammoth race. The hand didn't stop. It suddenly grabbed at Yu Feijia. Bang! Yu Feijia was like a grasshopper being pinched. His body exploded into minced meat. His blood and flesh were flying everywhere. His real body died, and his fate will outside exploded as well. Boom! This fate will was not torn apart. It was self-detonation. Therefore, a horrifying blast wave was created. Layers of ripples appeared in the air, and the lake water below surged with huge waves, sweeping in all directions like a tsunami. Plop! The two patriarchs of the Ding family were pushed off their fate wheels by the blast wave and fell down. Of course, even without the blast wave, the two patriarchs of the Ding family would be so scared that they would fall off their fate wheels. Horrifying. Bai Qiuxue and the others were shocked. Even though they had been following the old man of Heaven Prison, it was the first time for Bai Qiuxue and Bai Xia Shuang to see such a soul-stirring scene. However, at the moment, Bai Qiuxue was confused. Who was this mysterious, powerful warrior? If it were the old man of heaven prison, he wouldn't be so secretive. He would crush them openly. Chapter 198. Hiss, people gasped from afar. On each of the 3 iron-armored ships stood more than a dozen powerful warriors. They were all powerful warriors from different families who were here to protect their young masters and young ladies. Everyone was looking at Lu Li and the others. They all saw the horrifying palm and felt the force of heaven and earth. Although that force didn't affect them, all the experts felt it. At this moment, their hearts were in turmoil. Noble Lord Realm? This is troublesome. Zi Huanyu stopped controlling the Blossoms formation. Now that there was a warrior of the noble Lord Realm of the Thousand Island Lake who killed Euphrasia with one move, if he continued to attack Bai Long, he might be the one to be killed. Who is it? Zi Huanyu was confused. There were only 2 warriors of the noble Lord Realm at the Thousand Island Lake, the old man of Heaven Prison and the chief patriarch of the Bai family. This person was obviously not the old man of Heaven Prison. Otherwise, it would not have been so troublesome to kill Euphrasia so easily. The old man of Heaven Prison's fighting style was also not like this. Could it be the great elder of the Bai family, Bai Shi? The problem was that, Bai Shi had never heard of someone comprehending force. Bang, bang, bang. A series of muffled sounds rang out from the sea of flowers below, following which 3 figures were sent flying. One of them spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted, while the other 2 had pale faces. Yu Fainong grabbed the unconscious patriarch and controlled his fate wheel to fly towards the north at his fastest speed. Even though they were in the sea of flowers, they could sense what was happening outside. He saw the giant hand that was condensed from the lake water and saw Euphrasia being clawed to death. He knew that if he didn't escape now, everyone would die here. Who dared to fight back when a noble Lord Realm warrior made a move? Xiao, Bai Lung shot out from the sea of flowers. Since Zi Huanyu was no longer controlling the myriad flower formation, he could naturally rush out easily. He stood on the 9-layered fate wheel. Instead of going after Yu Fainong and the others, he looked at Lu Li with confusion. He was the 3rd most important person in the Bai family. He was familiar with the 2 noble Lord Realm warriors of the Bai family. But at this moment, he was very sure it was definitely not the old man of Heaven Prison or Bai Shi who attacked just now. Who is it? Why did you save Lu Li? Bai Lung's white hair fluttered in the wind as his brows knit together tightly. There wasn't a trace of happiness in his heart, and his eyes were heavy instead. There was a mysterious warrior of the noble Lord Realm at the Thousand Island Lake, and the Bai family didn't receive any information. This made him feel uneasy. It was silent. The sea of flowers under Zi Huanyu was disappearing. Chapter 199. Lu Li and the others had indeed arrived at the Heaven Prison City. Bai Qiushue was afraid that the Yu family would launch a sneak attack and hunt them down, so she went back to the Heaven Prison City at once. The group of young masters and young mistresses were all panic-stricken. They were completely relieved when they returned to the Heaven Prison City. Lu Li had passed out. Euphrasia just casually hit him. How powerful was the Eternal Realm? All the bones in his chest were broken. In the end, he even hit Euphrasia at the cost of his injury, which made his injury worse. He passed out as soon as he boarded the iron-armored ship. By D Mountain. After Bai Qiushue arrived at the Heaven Prison City, she immediately waved her hand and asked everyone to go to the Bai Emperor Mountain. At this point, the crowd had not completely calmed down and did not want to disperse. Following autumn snow, they headed towards the Bai Emperor Mountain. Of course, being able to go to the Bai Emperor Mountain was an honor for many people. As soon as he arrived at the Bai Emperor Mountain, he saw Madame Yin waiting with Chief Steward Bai. Seeing Ding Gue carrying Lu Li, who was badly mutilated, Madame Yan's eyes glinted with coldness and asked, "What happened?" Chief Steward Bai, take them to rest and heal Lu Li, Qiushue and Xiaoshuang. come with me. Chief Steward Bai arranged for them to rest in a castle. Madame Yin took Bai Xiaoshuang and Bai Qiuxue to the pavilion in the open air. Before they arrived at the attic, Bai Xiaoshuang was already chattering nonstop. He talked about what had happened in the tomb of Dragon King, the suffering he had suffered, and the strange things he had encountered. He then accused the Yu family of all kinds of crimes, and finally talked about the mysterious expert. After arriving at the outdoor pavilion, Madame Yin had more or less understood what had happened. She asked Bai Qiuxue about some key issues and then frowned her willow-like eyebrows. Bai Ding. After a while, Madame Yin shouted in a deep voice. A black shadow flashed and appeared. He got down on one knee and said, Madam. Madame Yin didn't even look at him. She waved her hand and said, Report to the chief patriarch and let him decide. The black shadow flashed and disappeared. Madame Yin looked at Bai Qiuxue and said, Qiuxue, are your wounds okay? Bai Qiuxue nodded and said, It is all thanks to Lu Li. Otherwise, we would have died at the mountain of Dragon King. Soul-related profound skill? Can you kill enemies of a higher level? Madame Yin thought of what Bai Qiuxue had just said and deduced. Her pearl-like eyes sparkled. She smiled and said, This young man has given me another surprise. It was the right decision to send him to follow you. Seeing that Madame Yin had no other arrangement, Bai Xiaoshuang pouted and said, Annie, why don't you ask the family to send someone to kill Yu Fainong and the others? They're so arrogant to fight at the Thousand Island Lake. They don't respect the Bai family at all. Madame Yin rolled her eyes. She stroked Bai Xiaoshuang's hair and said with a smile, Your Uncle Lung disabled 2 warriors of the Yu family and killed 1 more. What more do you want? Yu Lingxu was killed by Lu Li. Bai Xiaoshuang was not happy to hear that. She stood up and said, Yu Lingxu is possessed by the devil. He wants to kill my sister and Zilian and the others. Lu Li has done a good deed by killing him. It is wrong of them to fight at the Thousand Island Lake. They even ganged up on Uncle Lung. Madame Yin didn't think so. She thought about it and said, Okay, I understand now. You go back and have some rest. I will discuss with the chief patriarch about the rest. Madame Yin stood up and walked out. On the way, she suddenly looked back at Bai Qiuxue and said, Qiuxue, what do you think about Lu Li? Can we recruit him into the Bai family? Bai Qiuxue looked into Madame Yin's meaningful eyes with a faint smile. How could she not know what Madame Yin meant? She said with a blushed face, Auntie, if you want to recruit him, just do it. Why are you asking me? Bai Xiaoshuang was a bit silly and adorable. Of course, this was the main reason. She opened her eyes wide and said, Sure. Lu Li is a bit abominable, but he is powerful. If he is a bloodline warrior, it will be better. Madame Yin smiled and left directly. Bai Qiuxue, on the other hand, was absent-minded. She murmured in a voice that only she could hear, Our forefather said that we are destined to marry human sovereign realm warriors. Lu Li? I don't think so. Sis, what are you murmuring about? Bai Xiaoshuang was straightforward. She stretched and said, Let's go back. I'm so tired these days. I want to take a shower and have a big meal. You only know how to eat. Bai Xiaoshuang was angry just now, but now she was beaming with joy. Bai Qiuxue was speechless and said, If you get fat, how are you going to get married? Bai Xiaoshuang stuck out her chest and said, What are you afraid of? Our forefather told our fortune. We are destined to marry human sovereign realm warriors. Why should we be afraid that we cannot get married? Human sovereign realm? Bai Qiuxue sighed. Was the fortune-telling accurate? Could there be a human sovereign realm warrior at the northern desert? Time flew by. 2 or 3 days passed by in a blink of an eye. People came out from the tomb of Dragon King one after another. Zilian and Yi Yuhan came back with their warriors. Du Xiling was in a worse state. He had to wait for 3 days before he limped out, helping each other up. All the young masters' hands and feet were broken by Lu Li, and the bones in their chests were smashed. Even though they had top-level pellets, it would take time for them to recover. Every team gained something during the treasure hunt at the tomb of Dragon King. Zilian, Yi Yuhan, Du Xiling, and Yi Longyu went up to the mountain of Dragon King and got something. It was a pity that the most valuable treasures flew away in the coffin of the Dragon King. Of course, later on, the families would send someone in to search thoroughly to see if there were any more treasures. This time, it was also a good experience for the young masters and young ladies of the various forces and families. In particular, the maze had strengthened many people's temperaments, which was very useful for their future growth. The 3 iron-armored ships flew away, and so did Bai Long. The treasure hunt had come to an end. The Bai family sent many scouts to the nearby areas, trying to find out the whereabouts of the mysterious, powerful warrior. The Bai family also tried to find out the identity of the man. However, how could the scouts find out the identity of the mysterious, powerful warrior when even Bai Long couldn't? It was hard to figure out the identity of the man, even with all the information collected. When a warrior reached the peak of the eternal realm, he could live for 2,000 or 3,000 years. If there was an old warrior cultivating in seclusion, who could tell the identity of so many powerful warriors in the history of the Thousand Island Lake? The news about the fight at the Cliff of Purgatory spread across the entire Thousand Island Lake and the northern desert in 2 or 3 days. The Thousand Island Lake was in an uproar. The name of Lu Li spread across the Thousand Island Lake and caught the attention of many forces. After all, the fight was caused by Lu Li. Lu Li had woken up a long time ago, but it would take time for him to recover. Lu Li had been living in the castle at the Bai Emperor Mountain for the past couple of days. Bai Qiushue and Madame Yin didn't come. Only Chief Steward Bai would come to visit from time to time. On the evening of the 4th day, Madame Yin finally came. She was wearing a gorgeous red dress, which set off her smooth skin with a rosy glow. The dress was tight, showing off her perfect figure. Chapter 200. This was the second time Lu Li had been solicited. Last time, it was Lu Yi who came to him on behalf of the Lu family. Both times, Lu Yi was sincere and the terms were tempting. 10 years later, he could do whatever he wanted at the Thousand Island Lake. This was too tempting. Even though the Thousand Island Lake was not big, it was a force that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Heaven Frigid Kingdom, the Heaven Martial Kingdom, and the Heaven Cold Kingdom. To do whatever he wanted was to become the most important figure at the Thousand Island Lake. Apart from the few powerful warriors of the Bai family, nobody else would have to care about them. They could live a carefree life and even have the chance to marry a young lady of the Bai family and reach the pinnacle of their lives. Would Lu Li be tempted? If he didn't know his background, and if Lu Ling wasn't brought to the Siam Plains, maybe he would be tempted. But now, he had no hesitation. His mind was as firm as iron. He was not thinking about whether or not to join the Bai family, but how to turn down Madame Yin. His identity could not be exposed. He still didn't know who his father's enemy was at the northern desert. The risk of exposing his identity was too great. The Bai family could not be offended. He had to survive at the Thousand Island Lake. If he left the Thousand Island Lake now, he would be killed instantly. After much deliberation, he could only think of one way: to stall. He looked up at Madame Yin's charming face and said seriously, "Madame Yin, I am sorry. I don't want to join a big family yet. Of course, I will consider your offer carefully. I will not leave the Thousand Island Lake, and I will not join any other families. Can you give me some time?" Time? Madame Yin frowned. She couldn't figure it out. Was Lu Li waiting for a good offer, or was he stalling? But she was shrewd. Soon, she nodded and said, "Lu Li, rest well. The door of the Bai family will always be open for you. You don't have to worry about the Lu family. If you join the Bai family, we will take care of the Lu family. Whether they want to develop themselves or join the Bai family, we can talk about it." Madame Yin thought about it and said, "Lu Li, you can state your conditions as long as they are not too much." Lu Li thought about it and said, "For example, he wanted to stall, but he couldn't let Madame Yin see that he was stalling. Therefore, he wanted to give Madame Yin some hope so that she wouldn't suppress the Blood Evil Island." Madame Yin smiled and said, "For example, status, spiritual materials, mystical skills, mystical weapons, and resources. You can talk about anything you want. Even marrying the Bai family's daughter is not impossible." Miss Lu Li was disgusted by this. Big families were like this. Young ladies of the immediate family could be sold or given away at any time. There was no sense of humanity. It felt like a naked transaction. He suddenly put on a mocking smile, stared at Madame Yan's beautiful face, and said, "If I want to marry Lady Qiushua, Lady Xiaoshuang, can I? This won't do." Madame Yan rolled her eyes and said, "These two girls are the treasures of our forefather. Our forefather once told their fortune. They're going to marry human sovereign realm warriors. Do you think you can reach the human sovereign realm?" Hee hee. A trace of mockery appeared in Lu Li's eyes. Madame Yin had put it in a euphemistic way, but her underlying meaning was clear. Lu Li's status was not good enough for Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang. The two sisters both had 7th-rank bloodline, but Lu Li did not look like a bloodline warrior. This was the difference between a swan and a toad. Lu Li thought of something and suddenly stared at Madame Yan's enchanting body. He said, "Then if I want you, can I?" Eh. A trace of coldness appeared in Madame Yan's eyes. She got angry out of instinct. Was Lu Li addicted to flirting with her? This young man didn't know what he was capable of. Did he really think he was somebody? Madame Yin was shrewd. In the time for just one breath, the coldness in her eyes disappeared. Instead, she put on an alluring smile. Her eyes were filled with teasing, and her voice became very gentle. "Lu Li, it is not that I don't want to give you a chance. When you can defeat me, my boudoir will be open to you. How about that?" Lu Li put on a smile and asked, "What realm are you at, madam? What bloodline do you have?" Madame Yin answered with pride, "Initial stage of the eternal realm, 6th-rank bloodline." "Okay." Lu Li nodded and said, "Madam, just you wait. In 3 to 5 years, I will step into your boudoir." "Aha, you are ambitious." Madame Yin walked out while swaying her slim waist. At the door, she looked back and said with a smile, "Lu Li, if you want to sleep with me, you must have the resources of a big family. Think about it. I am waiting for you." "Vixen, Vixen." Madame Yin left, but Lu Li's mind was stirred up by her flirting. This woman was toxic. No wonder she was called the Black Widow. She was the nemesis of all men. How ecstatic would it be in bed? Lu Li sat by himself in deep thoughts. He couldn't come up with a good solution after much deliberation. He had to put it off for now. He didn't turn down the Bai family or join the Bai family. In the future, if the Bai family didn't like him and wanted to suppress him, he would think about it. He had saved Bai Qiushue's life. The Bai family wouldn't do anything to him in the short term. Lu Li stopped healing his wounds with his mind occupied. He didn't want to think about the dragon roar skill either. He knew that he couldn't figure it out even if he racked his brains. He was optimistic by nature. As long as his body was fine, he would leave it alone. He would think about it after he recovered and went back to the Blood Evil Island. Oh, after sitting for a while, he suddenly remembered something. He hadn't had the time to check the treasures he got at the Mountain of Dragon King. Little White got a sheepskin scroll first. Then he got an interspatial ring from the hilt of the divine weapon of Dragon King. In the end, he also took Yulingshu's ring. Buzzing. After he made sure that there was nobody outside, the interspatial ring glowed. A yellowed sheepskin scroll appeared in his hand. He frowned after he glanced over it. The sheepskin scroll was also written in seal script, which he couldn't understand. "Let Hunchback Tian have a look at it when I get back." He put away the sheepskin scroll, took out Yulingshu's ring, and used his Xian energy to consume it. Yulingshu was dead, so the mark on it disappeared. Lu Li consumed the ring easily. Good. Lu Li immersed himself in the interspatial ring. Soon, he was beaming with joy. Yulingshu deserved to be the future family patriarch of a Yu family. There were many good things in there. There were at least 1 million Xian crystals, Xian artifacts, armors, pellets, and a Xian skill book. It should be good stuff. Lu Li casually estimated that the things inside were worth at least 10 million Xian crystals. Lu Li checked and put away Yulingshu's interspatial ring. He took out the interspatial ring from the divine weapon of Dragon King with excitement. While consuming it, he prayed to himself, "Please don't be empty. Please don't be empty." An empty interspatial ring was worth 10 million Xian crystals. Even though it was valuable, Lu Li hoped there were some rare treasures inside. Anything of the Dragon King's will be priceless. Buzzing. The interspatial ring finally lit up. Luli saw the situation inside the interspatial ring in his mind. However, at that moment, his body suddenly trembled. His hand shook and the ring fell onto the bed. His lips trembled and he said in a trembling voice, "I am rich. I am rich. P.S. I wrote until 4 in the morning last night. I wrote 4 chapters. I was going to leave one, but since everyone is so supportive, I won't. The old freak of renewal will try hard to update at 8 o'clock every morning. He will publish all at once so that you won't have to wait. Well, the monthly ranking is a bit low. Our new book has broken 3 records. It won't look good if the monthly ranking is too low." Chapter 2:01. This interspatial ring was large, 10 times larger than Lu Li's original interspatial ring. The space inside was the size of a castle. There weren't many things inside. It was empty except for dozens of mystical materials. But Luli saw 3 fruits he was familiar with. Heaven Serpent Fruit. 3 Heaven Serpent Fruits were worth more than 100 million Xian crystals. Moreover, the 3 Heaven Serpent Fruits were mixed with the other spiritual materials, so there wasn't even a jade box to store them. What did this mean? It meant that the rest of the spiritual ingredients should be of the same grade as the Heaven Serpent Fruit. Most importantly, there were 6 jade boxes inside. The item in the jade box was definitely more valuable than the Heaven Serpent Fruit. 34, 35, 36. Luli counted 36 mystical materials in total. Except for the Heaven Serpent Fruit, he didn't know the rest. If every spiritual material was as valuable as the Heaven Serpent Fruit, then it would be worth a lot of Xian crystals. Buzz! Luli grabbed the ring and poured Xian energy into it. 6 jade boxes appeared in his hand. He opened it with trembling hands and discovered that the first jade box contained a stalk of spiritual herb. It looked very beautiful, like a pocket-sized dragon, and its entire body was golden yellow. As soon as the jade box was opened, a strong fragrance spread out, making Luli feel comfortable from head to toe. This was definitely a mystical materials of the highest quality. Luli glanced over and closed the lid at once, fearing that the efficacy of the pellet would disperse. All 6 jade boxes are the same? Luli opened them one by one. The things in the jade boxes were all the same, golden dragon-shaped mystical grasses. He murmured in confusion, "What is this?" Yang Kai knew nothing about spirit materials and spirit medicines, so he could only put the jade box into his space ring before putting the space ring into his own space ring. "We're rich." His face was red as he clenched his fists. He was so excited that he could not control himself. Not to mention the other spiritual materials. Just the 3 Heaven Serpent Fruits alone would cost more than 100 million Xian crystals. The value of the spiritual materials in the interspatial ring was immeasurable. The spatial ring on the divine weapon of the Dragon Emperor is indeed a treasure. Luli nodded to himself. All of a sudden, he thought of something. The interspatial ring hanging on the hilt of the relic weapon. Was it placed there by a demon on purpose? Just to tempt people to pull out the divine weapon? The treasures of the Dragon Emperor are all in the ancient coffin. How many treasures are there in there? It was unimaginable. Luli sighed, feeling it was a pity. If it weren't for that demon, these treasures would probably be theirs. However, Autumn Snow, Du Xiling, Zilian, and the others went up first. If it wasn't for that demon, all the treasures might have been taken by Du Xiling and the others, and he wouldn't have anything to do with it. Not bad. Not bad. Luli felt this trip to the tomb of Dragon King was worthwhile. He didn't mind offending the Yu family. It was unlikely that the Yu family would send assassins into the Thousand Island Lake. That would completely enrage the old man of Heaven Prison, and the entire Yu family might be destroyed. Oh, right. Luli then thought of the mysterious, powerful warrior at the bottom of the cliff of Purgatory. Many questions arose in his mind. Chief Steward told him what happened after that, but he still felt that something was wrong. Judging from the situation, there should be an old monster cultivating in seclusion at the bottom of the Purgatory Cliff Lake. After that, the great battle between Bai Lung and the others alarmed this old monster. At the moment when he was about to be killed, the old freak couldn't bear to watch any longer. He casually killed Yu Feijia and shocked the crowd. Chief Steward Bai told him the last sentence. Luli was in a coma, so he didn't hear it. Luli, on the other hand, felt something was off. Was he really that lucky? There was an old monster cultivating at the bottom of the lake. That old freak was of the noble lord realm, and he abhorred evils? Couldn't bear to see outsiders bully warriors of the Thousand Island Lake? If this old freak abhorred evil so much, how could he not be known by outsiders for so many years? According to Chief Steward Bai's words, the Bai family didn't find any information about this old freak. How could a powerful warrior of the noble lord realm, one that had perceived force, be so unknown? How could he be so low-key? This was not right. What if it was not a coincidence? Could it be on purpose? This man saved him on purpose? If that was the case, then there would be even more suspicious points. He didn't know any warriors of the noble lord realm. Even the most powerful warriors of the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race were at the peak of the eternal realm. There was another possibility. Was this man left behind by his father, Lu Renhuang, to protect him? But this did not make sense. He had been in danger many times before, and Lu Ling even died once. If Lu Renhuang left someone to protect them, why didn't he do anything before? Why didn't he show up when Lu Ling was burned to death that night at the Wuling County? He couldn't figure it out. Luli was puzzled again. He had a feeling that there was a big secret hidden here. That being said, his power was too low at the moment. There was no way for him to figure it out. Somehow, he had a feeling that when he was powerful enough, all these secrets might be solved. If so, then there was nothing else to think about. Luli put these messy thoughts aside and began to heal his wounds with peace of mind. Everything was developing in a good direction. As for what would happen in the future, they would deal with it as it came. At least, he had a way out now. He could enter the small world of the Cyan Phoenix race. Luli cultivated and healed for half a day. When it was dark, maids brought him delicious food. Chief Steward Bai came to see him again. His attitude could not be better. Luli managed to stand up after having a hearty meal. He wanted to take a shower with the help of maids. The maids wanted to wash for him herself, but he refused. After the shower, he felt refreshed. After several days of recovery, Lu Li's wounds were better. He figured he could go back to the Blood Evil Island in another 3 or 5 days. Since he never thought about joining the Bai family, Lu Li felt uncomfortable living here. He wanted to go back to the Blood Evil Island as soon as possible so he could ask Hunchback Tion to identify the scroll and the sheepskin scroll. He also wanted to find some information in secret to identify the mystical materials in the interspatial ring and the golden dragon grass in the jade box. Luli went back to his room after he wandered around the castle. Little White woke up. Luli fed it some fire jade spars, which it ate happily. Lord Lu, the maid suddenly came in and reported, Lady Qiushue is here to see you. Do you want to see her in your room or outside? Outside. Luli could barely walk now. Naturally, he didn't want to see a guest in his room. He walked out slowly and went to the side hall under the guidance of the maid. Bai Qiushue was sitting inside, wearing a light yellow lace dress. She had 2 purple beads dangling from her earlobes and a purple gem necklace around her neck. The necklace and her eyes were like dots of lacquer. Luli went in and took a look. He couldn't help but stare at her. Bai Qiushue noticed that Luli had come in. She noticed that Luli stood still at the door and stared at her. Her cheeks blushed. Under the light of the oil lamp, she looked even more beautiful. The maid didn't dare to persuade Luli. After the time for 2 breaths, Luli regained his calmness. He coughed in embarrassment and said, I am sorry. Lady Qiushue, you are so beautiful tonight. I'm being rude. Bai Qiushue often heard such compliments, but this time, she felt something different. Usually, she could deal with situations like this with ease. But now, she didn't know what to say. She just nodded with a blushed face. Luli walked to the chair next to Bai Qiushue and sat down with the help of the maid. The maid left after she served him tea. Luli was not reserved at all. He took a sip of tea and said, Lady Qiushue, you are really beautiful today. I'm speaking from the heart. Also, what can I do for you? Bai Qiuxue was surprised to see that Lu Li was at ease and his eyes were clear. He didn't feel uncomfortable or reserved at all. Could it be that Lu Li didn't have any feelings for her? Was it just pure appreciation? Otherwise, why wasn't he like the other young masters? In the past, when those young masters sat next to her, they would be so nervous that they didn't even dare to breathe for fear that they might say something wrong. Chapter 202. One could be strong without desire. It was true that Bai Qiuxue was an excellent girl. A fair and graceful lady was a good match for a gentleman. However, Lu Li was clear about his own capabilities. He really had no desire to pursue Bai Qiuxue. First of all, he would not join the Bai family. Second, he could not expose his identity as a disciple of the Lu family. Third, Madame Yin said that Bai Qiuxue and Bai Xiaoshuang were going to marry a human sovereign realm warrior. He did not have the ambition to reach the human sovereign realm. He had too many things to do. Before he could save his parents and get Lu Ling back, he would not let his feelings bind him. Therefore, he had frozen his heart. He only had pure appreciation for Bai Qiuxue. He had no special thoughts. His eyes were clear when he looked at Bai Qiuxue. He had no greed, no impulse or possessiveness. He just saw her as an ordinary beautiful girl. Nothing. I just came to check on your wounds. Bai Qiuxue reacted quickly. She smiled sweetly and said, I can see that you can walk now. You must be recovering well. I am relieved. Oh. Before Lu Li could say anything, Bai Qiuxue suddenly stood up, bowed and said, This time, I am here to thank you. Thank you for saving me twice in the tomb of Dragon King. I will always remember your kindness. Lu Li didn't help Bai Qiuxue since he was wounded. He said with a smile, Lady Qiuxue, you are too kind. This is not worth mentioning. Of course, it is my good fortune to be remembered by you. All the young masters of the Thousand Island Lake will be jealous of me. Ha ha ha. Looking at how calm Lu Li was, Bai Qiuxue couldn't help but say, Lu Li, you are really special. Even the young masters of the Thousand Island Lake are not as good as you. Thank you. Lu Li was still calm. He didn't feel flattered at all. He said with a smile, I should be grateful to be praised like this by you, Lady Qiuxue. Lu Li's indifference made Bai Qiuxue feel even worse. Usually, it was her aura that could suppress a group of young masters. She could do it freely. Now, she felt she was being suppressed by Lu Li. She became cautious. Does he really have no feelings for me? Bai Qiuxue was surprised. Women's minds were often contradictory. Even though she knew it was impossible for her to be with Lu Li, she still hoped that her charm could conquer Lu Li. In the past, all the young masters were infatuated with her. Now that there was an exception, she felt uncomfortable. After a moment of absent-mindedness, Bai Qiuxue seriously asked, Lu Li, can I ask you a question? Lu Li nodded and said, Lady Qiuxue, go ahead. I will tell you everything that I can. As for the things that I cannot say, at least I will not lie to you. Lu Li seemed to have guessed what Bai Qiuxue was going to ask, so he answered her in advance. Autumn Snow was a little disappointed, but she still asked, I would like to ask if that roar of yours was a soul-related profound skill. Lu Li really didn't know about this. Everyone could only have one bloodline skill, but he had two. He didn't even know. He thought about it and said, I can only tell you, I don't know if it's true or not, because I don't know myself. Seeing the sincerity in Lu Li's eyes, Bai Qiuxue nodded slightly and then asked, Then can you tell me, did you learn this Xian skill in the tomb of Dragon King? Bai Qiuxue wanted to ask if Lu Li got the Xian skill from the tomb of Dragon King, but she didn't know how to answer. Lu Li found it easy to answer. He said with certainty, Yes, I didn't know it before. I only learned it at the mountain of Dragon King. Sure enough, Bai Qiuxue misunderstood Lu Li. She thought that he got the Xian skill from the tomb of Dragon King. Her eyes lit up, and she said, Then can you sell one to the Bai family? A handwritten copy will do. You can name the price. A handwritten copy? Lu Li laughed involuntarily. How could there be a handwritten copy? This was the information that popped up directly in his mind. Only he could learn it. It cannot be passed down in words. Even if he did, others wouldn't be able to learn it. Luli forced a smile and said, I am sorry, Lady Chioshua. I'm not trying to hide it. If I can make a copy, I will definitely sell it to the Bai family. Since you have asked, I cannot say no. This really can't. As for the reason, don't ask. Bai Chioshua was disappointed again, but she felt that Luli didn't lie to her. She nodded and said, Okay, I understand. I'm being rude. Luli smiled, but didn't explain. Bai Chioshua asked one last question. Luli, will you join the Bai family? I want to hear your real thoughts. Luli wanted to say that he would think about it, but looking at Bai Chioshua's pretty eyes, he didn't have the heart to lie to her. He just smiled and said nothing. Bai Chioshua was smart. She knew the answer from Luli's smile. She didn't try to persuade him. She stood up and nodded. Luli, don't worry. I will not say anything. Whatever happens, we will always be friends. Oh, Bai Chioshua took out a token from her interspatial ring and said, when we were on the winding mountain road, I said that if we get treasures, we will share them equally. I got a heaven-grade Xian skill. I will take it. The Xian crystals are in here. Take care of your wounds. I am leaving now. Luli stood up and watched Bai Chioshua leave. Even though he had told her the answer, Luli wasn't too worried. He could feel Bai Chioshua's sincerity. She was a girl with a pure heart, intelligence, and beauty. Since she said so, she would keep her words. She would not betray Luli. She would help Luli when he was in trouble. This girl is nice. Only a human sovereign realm warrior can be a match for such a beauty, Luli exclaimed to himself. He picked up the token and went back to his room. As for how many Xian crystals were in the token, Luli didn't care anymore. He was not in need of Xian crystals now. He didn't want to think about anything else. He wanted a closed-door cultivation, cultivating Xian energy and healing his wounds at the same time. For the rest of the time, nobody came to disturb him. Madame Yin and Bai Chioshu never came. Only Chief Steward Bai would come to see him once in a while. He was still respectful. For days later, Lu Li's wounds were almost healed. He decided to go back to the Blood Evil Island. The other young masters and young ladies had gone back a long time ago. It was awkward for Lu Li to stay here alone. He told Chief Steward Bai about it. Madame Yin, Bai Chioshue, Bai Xiaoshuang, and Bai Gu all came to see him off. Madame Yin thought highly of him. She asked Chief Steward Bai to escort him to the teleportation formation in person. Once again, he told Lu Li to think about it, and that the gate of the Bai family would be open for him at any time. Normally, they only needed to send Lu Li to the teleportation formation at the Bai Emperor Mountain. So many people had come to see Lu Li off. Bai Chioshu suddenly said, Lu Li, let's go. I will send you to the Heaven Prison City. Madame Yin looked at Bai Chioshu meaningfully, but did not say anything. Bai Xiaoshuang and Bai Gu were taken aback. Bai Chioshu walked into the teleportation formation with a smile. Lu Li cupped his fists to Madame Yin. Bai Xiaoshuang followed after some thoughts. With a flash of white light, Lu Li and the other three disappeared into the teleportation formation. Bai Gu, Bai Ying, and the others looked at Madame Yin. Bai Gu said, Madam, will Chioshu, it's fine. Madame Yin waved her hand and said, Chioshu is a smart girl. She knows what to do. Go back now. Don't worry. After Lu Li and the other three teleported down, they boarded a luxurious chariot and went straight to the Heaven Prison City. They stopped at the teleportation formation. Lu Li stood up and said, Thank you for seeing me off. Shall we call it day? Bai Chioshu smiled gently and walked out with Lu Li. They stood outside the teleportation formation together. The escorts that were guarding here knelt down one by one. Soon, the plaza was in an uproar. Lu Li smiled bitterly to himself, looking at the many eyes that were looking at him. Bai Chioshu had sent him here on purpose to show all the forces of the Thousand Island Lake how much she and the Bai family valued Lu Li. In the future, if anyone dared to hurt Lu Li, they would have to consider if the Bai family would be angry. Chapter 203. At the God-Down City, the teleportation formation glowed. A young man in a cyan robe appeared in the teleportation formation. He stood in the teleportation formation, lost in thought. It was not because of the dizziness caused by the teleportation. It was because he felt it was a lifetime ago looking at the familiar city. It was not a long time since he went to the tomb of Dragon King, but he had experienced several life-threatening crises. Eventually, he survived and came back. The Emperor Mountain was not his home. The Blood Evil Island near the Goddown Island was his home. Finally, he was going home. After a while, he stood up and walked towards the teleportation formation. As soon as he stepped out, 3 men rushed over from the distance. Luli smiled when he saw the 3. They were Patriarch 7, Lu E, and Hunchback Tion. The 3 dared not to go to the Heaven Prison City. They must have been staying at the Goddown City, waiting for his return. Island owner, the 3 shouted excitedly from the distance. Lu Yi's eyes were misty. Patriarch 7's face was filled with excitement. Hunchback Tion was his slave, so he was calmer. Swish, 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 many people looked over. The Sioux family warriors near the teleportation formation recognized Lu Li and showed him respect. A team leader of the Sioux family cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Island Owner Lu." "Greetings, Island Owner Lu." The Sioux family warriors cupped their fists and bowed in unison. Lu Li nodded with a smile. Seeing the respect on their faces, Lu Li thought to himself that the news of him killing Yu Lingxiu in the tomb of Dragon King and the fight at the Cliff of Purgatory had spread out. Swish! Hunchback Tion and the others rushed over. Patriarch 7 and Lu Yi bowed to Lu Li. They seemed to be too excited today. Oh, soon, Lu Li understood. He killed Yu Lingxiu, and Yu Feijia died because of him. 2 patriarchs of the Yu family were disabled. This could be considered as revenge for Lu Rufeng and the others. That was why Lu Yi and Patriarch 7 were so excited. In the fight at the Wuling County, because of Yu Feijia, the Lu family suffered heavy casualties. The family patriarch, the chief patriarch, and the second patriarch died in battle. Many disciples of the Lu family were killed. Even though the culprit was the Zhao family, without Yu Feijia, these things could not have been avoided. When they rushed into the Thousand Island Lake, it was the Yu family that sent warriors to intercept them. Another batch of Lu family disciples died. Patriarch 7 even swore in grief and indignation that the Lu family disciples would never forget this hatred. "All right, let's talk about it when we get back," Lu Li said lightly. Lu Yi and Patriarch 7 stood up and nodded to calm themselves down. Lu Li cupped his fist to the leader of the Sioux family and left the plaza with the 3 of them. They boarded a luxurious chariot and headed out of the city. Before they left the county, they heard the sound of hooves coming from behind. Lu Li lifted the curtain and saw Su Yaoyang and Su Fangfei coming with the team. "Brother Lu," Su Yaoyang shouted from the distance. Lu Li had to ask the coachman to stop. He walked out of the carriage with the others and waited for Su Yaoyang and the others to come over. "Brother Lu," Su Yaoyang galloped over. He got off the horse and pretended to blame Lu Li. He took Lu Li's hands and said, "This is not right of you. How can you leave so soon after you come back? Could it be that you hate this goddown city so much? You saved Fangfei's life. If the Su family didn't repay the kindness, wouldn't the forces of the Thousand Island Lake curse the Su family? Let's go, let's go. The banquet is ready. We're just waiting for Brother Lu to join us." Su Yaoyang was very cordial. For a split second, Lu Li felt that he and Su Yaoyang were old friends. Su Fangfei smiled sweetly and said, "Young Master Lu, please give me a chance to thank you for saving my life." Looking at Su Fangfei's smiling face, Lu Li felt a bit disgusted. Back at the tomb of Dragon King, Su Fangfei didn't show any gratefulness after he led the others out of the maze. Now she was being so hypocritical. Lu Li's expressions didn't change. He cupped his fists and said with a bitter smile, "Young Master Su, it is not that I don't know what is good for me and refuse your kindness. It is just that my wounds are not healed yet. I want to go back and recuperate. How about this? When my wounds are all healed, I will go to you and apologize." Su Yaoyang was surprised. Seeing Lu Li's firm tone, he nodded and said, I am being rude. Brother Lu, since you were wounded, I will not force you. We'll drink this wine later. Guards! Su Yaoyang shouted. Several people carried big boxes over, as if they were afraid that others couldn't see them. Su Yaoyang pointed to the boxes and said, "This is a small gift from the Su family. Brother Lu, if you still refuse, I will turn against you." They really are here to put on a show? Lu Li sighed to himself. Why do they have to carry so many boxes? Couldn't they just give some top-level mystical materials or several bottles of top-level elixirs? Lu Li despised them on the inside, but he still had to be polite. He waved his hand and said, "No, no, no. The Blood Evil Island is affiliated to the God Down Island. I am a subordinate of the Su family. Whatever I do is what I should do. Such a small matter is not worth mentioning. I can't do it. I can't do it." Someone, Su Yaoyang said in an overbearing manner, "Carry the gifts directly to the battleships of the Blood Evil Island. If they don't accept it, you don't have to come back." Yes. Several warriors of the Su family took the order. They carried the boxes and ran towards the outside of the city. Lu Li was even more speechless. Su Yaoyang was a natural-born actor. Most people would be grateful to him. Lu Li had to exchange some pleasantries and accept the gifts. Then he chatted with Su Yaoyang for a while before he got on the carriage and drove out of the city. Su Yaoyang and Su Fangfei watched Lu Li leave. When he disappeared at the end of the street, they rode towards the Su family compound. As soon as they entered the Su family compound, Su Yaoyang's expression darkened. He said coldly, "I gave you face, but you don't want it. Do you really think you are somebody?" Su Fangfei also said with disdain, "Indeed. The Bai family offered him an olive branch. Bai Qiuxue and Bai Xiaoshuang sent him to the heaven prison city. I think his heart is in the clouds now. I don't think our Su family is anything to him now. If he becomes the son-in-law of the Bai family, he will have his eyes on the sky." "So noisy," Su Yaoyang shouted in a deep voice. His face was extremely gloomy. He had been pursuing Bai Xiaoshuang for several years, but she never looked him in the eye. Lu Li, a stray dog from the Heaven Martial Kingdom, was sent to the Heaven Prison City by the two pearls of the Thousand Island Lake in person. "Why are you getting mad at me?" Su Fangfei pouted unhappily and said, "You don't work hard in cultivation. Lu Li is detestable, but he can kill you Lingxiu. If he can kill you Lingxiu, Bai Xiaoshuang will look at you in a different light." Su Yaoyang snorted. He sped up and rushed towards a distance. He stopped at a corner, turned around, and said, "Tell father that I am in closed-door cultivation. I will not come out until I reach the peak of the Soul Pond realm. Ask father to prepare the materials for me to build a fate wheel. I want to show Bai Xiaoshuang that I, Su Yaoyang, am not a good-for-nothing." Chapter 204. Back at the Blood Evil Island, there was another hubbub. All the disciples of the Lu family were here, looking at Lu Li with enthusiasm. At this moment, Lu Li finally became the rightful island owner, the backbone of everyone. Su Yaoyang's gifts were just for show. They were all low-level stuff, less than 100,000 Xin crystals in total. They were packed in so many big boxes just for the outsiders to see. The news of the fight at the Cliff of Purgatory had spread all over the Blood Evil Island. Lu, Yi, and the others didn't know much about what happened in the Tomb of Dragon King. Lu Li didn't want to explain too much either. He just gave them a simple explanation. After making sure that Yu Lingxiu was killed by Lu Li, Lu, Yi, and the others looked at Lu Li with more respect. He could kill a warrior at the middle stage of the Soul Pond realm and a genius with 6th rank bloodline. No matter how Lu Li did it, he was no longer the young boy that carried coffins for the Lu family in the hearts of the people. He had grown into a big tree, a tree that the Lu family could rely on. Patriarch 7. Lu Li asked the other patriarchs to leave, leaving only Patriarch 7, Lu, Yi, and Hunchback Tion. Lu Li ordered, "Go and run around the God Down City for the next couple of days. Find any reason. Why would I go to the God Down City?" Patriarch 7 was confused. Lu, he didn't understand either. Lu Li didn't explain. He just ordered, "I told you to go and just do it. Think of your own reasons." You can buy Xian beasts, seeds, mystical materials, anything. Okay. Patriarch 7 nodded. Luli finally revealed his purpose. After a couple of days, send someone to buy some books secretly. Buy a bunch of random things. You can buy some introductions to bloodlines, low-level cultivation methods, and Xian skills. Remember, you must buy books on high-level mystical materials, mystical grasses, and treasures. Patriarch 7's eyes lit up. Lu Yi was stunned for a moment, and then she understood. So Lu Li wanted books on high-level mystical materials, mystical grasses, and treasures? Could it be that he got something good in the tomb of Dragon King that he asked Patriarch 7 to get it back with such care? Of course, Patriarch 7 and Lu Yi dared not to have any improper thoughts. Just like when Lu Li took out treasures as collateral at the auction house for 20 million Xian crystals, they didn't even ask. They knew very well that Lu Li was not the same as before. If they did anything to displease him, the Lu family would be doomed eternally. Therefore, they didn't ask any questions. Lu Li looked at them with satisfaction. He warned, "This must be kept secret. Once the information is leaked, the Blood Evil Island will be destroyed." As expected, I got something good. Patriarch 7 was shocked, and Hunchback Tion's eyes lit up. Patriarch 7's greedy thoughts flashed through his mind, but he didn't dare to think about it anymore. After a while, his face showed a happy expression. The more powerful Lu Li was, the higher the status of the Lu family would rise. This was a good thing. The 7th elder cupped his hands and said, "Don't worry, Island Lord. This matter will definitely not reach the ears of 5th person. I will be very careful." All right. Lu Li was relieved to see Patriarch 7's expression. He inquired about the situation at the Blood Evil Island. Everything was fine. He stood up and walked outside. "I'm going back to treat my wounds. Hunchback Tion, come with me. You guys go ahead." "Island Lord," Lu Yi suddenly shouted, but she didn't finish her sentence. Lu Li turned around and asked with a frown, "What's wrong?" Lu Yi bit her lips and said, "Thank you." Lu Li nodded and swaggered away with Hunchback Tion. Lu Yi's expression became gloomy, as if she had lost her soul. Patriarch 7 could tell what was on Lu Yi's mind. He sighed and said, "Family Patriarch, don't overthink it. You cannot count on Lu Li right now. We should focus on assisting him. He is a man who values friendship. As long as we are dead set on him, we can rise up as well when he soars to the sky in the future. If we have too many thoughts and annoy him, the Lu family will fall into an abyss." "Yes, I know, Grandpa 7. Lu Yi nodded and forced a smile. However, she could not hide the disappointment on her face. She knew that Lu Li was getting further and further away from her. One day, Lu Li would soar to the sky, and she could only look at him from down below. Hunchback Tion, translate these words. Back at the Dragon Elephant Mountain, Lu Li threw the scroll to Hunchback Tion. The maids had prepared paper and pen. Hunchback Tion took over the scroll and read it carefully. Then his eyes lit up. "Good stuff." After a while, Hunchback Tion raised his head and said, "Master, this is a heaven-grade Xian skill. How did you get it?" "Don't ask so many questions. Translate it and copy it for me." Lu Li glanced at it coldly. Hunchback Tion quickly picked up a pen and paper and copied the translation word by word. Lu Li didn't mind him. Hunchback Tion would never disobey Lu Li's orders, nor would he have any intention to harm Lu Li. The scroll could not be translated wrong. After an hour, Hunchback Tion finished translating and gave it to Lu Li. Then he looked at Lu Li with passion and said, "Master, can I learn this Xian skill? Let's talk about it later." Lu Li carefully read the scroll that Hunchback Tion translated without even raising his head. What he saw were 4 words, apparition. This was a body method Xian skill of the heaven grade. Lu Li looked down for the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn before he looked up and said, "I will learn this Xian skill first. Later, when I get more advanced body method Xian skill, I will give it to you." "Yes." A glint of disappointment appeared in Hunchback Tion's eyes, but he didn't dare to say anything. The Xian skill was abstruse. It was explained in thousands of words. Even though he had copied it, He couldn't remember it all. Also, how could he dare to learn it without reference? What was more, Luli was his master. He had given the order. If Luli found out that Hunchback Tion was cultivating in secret, he would be killed. Luli saw Hunchback Tion's disappointment, but he didn't show any mercy. Humans were selfish. Hunchback Tion was only Luli's slave, not his brother. The Cyan Phoenix race helped him build his fate wheel, and he would be Luli's slave for 100 years. This was a fair and voluntary deal. Luli didn't feel he owed Hunchback Tion anything. None of the families would sell heaven-grade Xian skills. They regarded them as treasures of the family. If they could be found all over the world, then the Xian skill would be worthless. Naturally, Luli didn't want outsiders to cultivate it. Look at this. Luli threw out another sheepskin scroll, which Little White got from the peak of the mountain of Dragon King. There were also some seal scripts on it, only dozens of them. There were also some strange lines and symbols that Luli couldn't understand. Hunchback Tion took it over and read it carefully. The more he looked, the more he frowned. He would shake his head every now and then. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, he looked up and said, "I don't understand this." Luli was surprised and asked, "Aren't there words on it? Why can't I understand it?" "There are words." Hunchback Tion smiled bitterly and said, "But these words are not connected. There should be 4 pieces of sheepskin scroll, and this is one of them. But, judging from the more than a dozen words on it, this should be a map, and not a map of the northern desert." Map? Luli was disappointed. What was the use of a map? He thought it was a Xian skill or a secret skill. He took it over and threw it aside after a quick glance. Hunchback Tion said in a hurry, "Master, you must put this away. It may be a treasure map or a route to a treasure land." Treasure map? Route map? Luli was interested. Hunchback Tion explained, "Even though the words are not connected, there's a place called the Forbidden Ground of Elder God. A place with the word God, and it must be something special. Also, it says the Central Plains. The Forbidden Ground of Elder God should be at the Central Plains." Central Plains? Luli rolled his eyes. He wanted to go to the Central Plains even in his dreams. The thing was, he couldn't even get out of the Thousand Island Lake. The map was incomplete, so it was of no use to him at the moment. Alas, Luli sighed on the thought of the Central Plains. He had completely offended the Yu family by killing Yu Lingxiu. The Z family could not tolerate him. He had also offended Du Xiling. The Thousand Island Lake had killed a warrior of the Yu family, which was equal to a slap on the face of the 3 royal families indirectly. Luli might not have the chance to join the 3 royal families anymore. If he could not take the super teleportation formation, when could he get to the Central Plains and return to the Lu family? Luli frowned on the thought that his parents were still suffering in the ice abyss, and Lu Ling didn't know what was going on. His eyes were filled with worry. P.S. I stayed up until 4:30 and wrote 4 chapters. I wanted to save the next one. But you guys are so awesome. Hundreds of monthly votes have been spent. My new book has made it into the top 10. I want to keep it up for another day so that I won't let you down. I have to go to the Writers Association of the Changsha province for a meeting from the 13th to the 16th. I need to save some manuscripts. I can't keep it up tomorrow. Otherwise, I will have to stop updating. I will be beaten to death by you. Chapter 205. Boom! At the Yu Emperor City at the east of the Heaven Martial Kingdom, a muffled sound of explosion came from a luxurious castle. A big hole appeared on the wall of the castle. A man was smashed out. His body was badly mutilated. He rolled on the ground for a while before he breathed his last. A group of important figures of the Yu family stood in the luxurious castle. They were all looking at a middle-aged man who was as strong as a beast. They kept quiet out of fear. Yu Fainan was standing in there at the moment. His face was filled with fear. Yu Huaxin, the family patriarch of the Yu family, had just killed a scout in a fit of rage. Even though it was just a scout, judging by the looks of Yu Huaxin, anyone who said something wrong would be killed in one move. Yu Huaxin looked like he was middle-aged. He was strong and stocky. His black hair draped down his back casually. He was wearing a black fancy robe. He had a pair of big and bulging eyes. He looked like a lion that was going to show its might when he was in rage. The Thousand Island Lake has gone too far. Too far. Yu Huashen shouted in a deep voice. Along with his shout, there was a surge of qi and energy that was as ferocious as a beast's. The more than a dozen people standing there were even more nervous. After several shouts, the ferocious qi and energy on Yu Huashen gradually weakened. He didn't look as angry as before, but he was still gloomy. He glanced over to the people in the hall and coldly said, "Why don't you say anything? Are you mute? How are we going to get revenge? How are we going to avenge Ling Xiu? What do you think?" Yu Huashen set the tone. They must get back their dignity and avenge Ling Xiu. A skinny patriarch of the Yu family stood out after some thoughts. "Family patriarch, how about we send someone to the Thousand Island Lake to assassinate Lu Li and then sneak back? The old man of heaven prison won't say anything as long as we don't have any evidence." Many patriarchs' eyes lit up. Everything happened because of Lu Li. Yu Lingxiu was killed by Lu Li. As long as Lu Li was killed, Yu Lingxiu would be avenged and the Yu family would regain some of their dignity. As for getting back at Bai Lung or to the Bai family, nobody had that idea. As long as the old man of heaven prison was still alive, even the Z family wouldn't have the guts, let alone the Yu family. A patriarch stood out and said, "That's right. As long as we plan in advance and find a chance, we can leave after one strike. The Bai family can't get any evidence, so the old man of heaven prison won't dare to do anything." Many nodded in agreement. Yu Huashen sneered and said, "What if they find evidence?" The old devil of heaven prison had an agreement with the three forces back then. If we send people in and get any evidence, I'm afraid the Yu family's 10,000 years of foundation will be destroyed. The entire place was silent. Many people felt a chill down their spines just thinking about it. As long as there was no evidence, everything would be fine. There was always a chance. What if the Bai family had arranged someone to stay with Lu Li? What if the Bai family had secretly arranged for the Yu family to sneak in and then capture the Yu family? At that time, the old man of heaven prison would go to the Yu emperor's city in a fit of rage. Even the Z family would not be able to protect the Yu family. "That's easy," the skinny patriarch coldly said. "Even if we don't go into the Thousand Island Lake, we can still find a way to kill Lu Li. We don't need to use a conspiracy. We'll use an open conspiracy. The old man of heaven prison can't do anything about it." "Oh." Yu Huashen's eyes glowed. This skinny old man was called Yu Luan. He was not powerful, only at the initial stage of the eternal realm. However, he had an important position in the Yu family. He was the think tank of the Yu family, nicknamed the Viper. Since he said so, he must be very confident. The other patriarchs all looked at Yu Luan, waiting for his opinion. Yu Luan smiled proudly and said, "We don't need to go in, but we can set up a trap for Lu Li to come out. Or we can let the warriors of the Thousand Island Lake kill Lu Li. When Lu Li comes out or is killed by the warriors of the Thousand Island Lake, the old man of heaven prison will have nothing to say, right?" "That makes sense." Several patriarchs nodded. One of them asked, "Then how can we lure Lu Li out? Lu Li should be favored by the Bai family now, right? How can the warriors of the Thousand Island Lake touch Lu Li?" Yu Luan smiled mysteriously. He cupped his fist to Yu Huashen and said, "Family patriarch, leave it to me. I promise you that Lu Li will not live for more than half a year." "Okay." Yu Huashen nodded with satisfaction and said, "All the patriarchs of the family will cooperate with you. We will give you whatever you want. I want you to bring Lu Li's head back in half a year and offer it to my grandson." Yes. All the patriarchs of the department accepted the order. They were excited. Since Yu Luan was so confident, then this matter was basically settled. Lu Li would die for sure in half a year. The Blood Evil Island. Lu Li didn't know that a poisonous snake had its eyes on him. He had been living comfortably these days. Living at the Dragon Elephant Mountain made him feel at home and comfortable. His wounds were almost healed. He had been cultivating Xian energy and trying to learn the heaven-grade Xian skill, Apparition. This was the first heaven-grade Xian skill he got. It was something hard to buy even with Xian crystals. Naturally, Lu Li had to learn it as soon as possible. Heaven-grade Xian skills were abstruse and complicated. Luli had only scratched the surface after trying to learn it for several days. It was difficult for him to even get started, let alone cultivate it. The Blood Evil Island was quite lively these days. Third-rank islands and second-rank families all came with gifts. They said that they were here to visit Lu Li since he was injured. Lu Li didn't see any of them. People of this level didn't need him to show up. Lu Yi and Patriarch 7 entertained them warmly, which made Lu Li feel honored. Patriarch 7 was attentive to what Lu Li asked him to do. He went to the Su family in person to return the gifts. Then he went to visit the patriarch of the Su family in a couple of days. He brought a group of people with him to buy all kinds of things: seeds of blood caterpillar grasses, blood rhinoceroses, low-level Xian beast Xian skills, and so on. The God-down city was full of people of the Lu family, but people in the city didn't mind. Lu Li was famous now. It was normal for the Lu family to come out and show off. It was understandable that the Lu family was buying materials on a large scale and wanted to develop vigorously. On the afternoon of the 5th day, Patriarch 7 went to the Dragon Elephant Mountain with several boxes of books in person. The compendium of high-level mystical materials Lu Li asked for had been bought back. There were dozens of books recording rare, mystical materials of the northern desert and even the central plains. Lu Li was excited. He checked overnight and took out the elixirs in his interspatial ring for comparison. There were tens of thousands of mystical materials recorded in the compendium. The descriptions were simple, just describing what a certain mystical materials looked like and what functions they had. That was enough. Lu Li spent the whole night reading. The more he read, the more excited he became. He had almost finished identifying the 30 mystical materials in the interspatial ring. None of the treasures of the Dragon King were of low level. All of them were about the same level as the Heaven Serpent fruit. In other words, each of the 36 mystical materials was worth tens of millions of mystical materials. After the time it took for several incense sticks to burn, Lu Li finally finished identifying the 36 mystical materials. Now there was only the last one left, the golden dragon grasses in the 6 jade boxes. He flipped through the books and checked the introduction of the mystical materials one by one. What disappointed him was that after going through more than 20 books, he still couldn't find anything that was similar to the description of the golden dragon grasses. Lu Li finally found the introduction of the golden dragon grasses after he read through 5 more books. After he made sure, he was trembling. The real name of the golden dragon grasses was rising dragon grass. Chapter 206. Lu Li had a deep impression of the rising dragon grass because Yi Chao once said that one rising dragon grass could be sold at a price of 800 million or 1 billion. Lu Li was scared out of his wits. Now, he had 6 rising dragon grasses? Wouldn't that mean billions of Xian crystals? Plus the 36 mystical materials. It should be worth at least more than 1 billion. Lu Li did a rough calculation. The value of the mystical materials in the interspatial ring was at least 6 billion. Gulp, gulp. Lu Li swallowed his saliva. He felt like he had become a parvenu. Billions of Xian crystals. How should he spend them? What realm could he reach with that amount of Xian crystals? One attempt at the Fate Wheel realm would cost him 3 million Xian crystals. How many times could he do it? Lu Li was in a daze. He remembered that not long ago, he pulled coffins at the Wuling County just for 1 body refinement pellet. It had only been a short time, and now he had billions of Xian crystals. How nice it would be if I had so many Xian crystals at the Delong tribe. Lu Li exclaimed to himself. If he had Xian crystals back then, he would have taken Lu Ling to a faraway place. He wouldn't have to suffer in the Delong tribe, and he wouldn't have to join the Lu family, which caused Lu Ling to go to the Siam Plains. Of course, it was just a thought. How could he get Xian crystals back then? But on the thought of Lu Ling, he calmed himself down. He could not be blinded by these mystical materials. Strength was the most important thing. Without strength, he could die at any time. The billions of mystical materials would belong to someone else. Will the Yu family seek revenge? Lu Li thought of another question. Theoretically speaking, the Yu family wouldn't dare to send anyone into the Thousand Island Lake. But what if? After the time for one incense stick to burn, Luli decided to move to the Earth Dragon Island. At the same time, he planned to build many inhibition formations at the Earth Dragon Island. Once enemies came, he could go to the small world at once. There were 9 warriors at the peak of the eternal realm in that small world. The Mammoth race and the Cyan Phoenix race were the most powerful combination. Even a warrior of the Noble Lord realm wouldn't fare well if they sent their powerful warriors. Hunchback Tion, Luli shouted. Hunchback Tion came in. Luli asked him to find Patriarch 7 to build a secret at the Earth Dragon Island and told him to keep it secret. In this way, he had 2 backup plans. On the surface, he lived in the Dragon Elephant Mountain, and he could set up some restrictions on the Dragon Elephant Mountain. If there was an enemy attack, they could directly rush to the Dragon Elephant Mountain to give an early warning. Hunchback Tion accepted the order and left. Not long afterwards, Patriarch 7 came in person. After listening to some of Luli's opinions, Patriarch 7 started to make arrangements. The Lu family was not in need of Xian crystals now. With Lu Li's animal tooth pendant, the Lu family could sell a batch of netherworld roots and fire fairy lucid ganoderma every month. They could also sell 2 pieces of blood caterpillar fruits, earning them millions of Xian crystals. It was too easy for Lu Li to set up a secret temporary residence and some inhibition formations at the Earth Dragon Island. After Patriarch 7 left, Lu Li was not in the mood to cultivate. He was thinking about the layout of the Earth Dragon Island and what if something went wrong. Why not give these ascending dragon herbs to Yi, Jie, and the others? A bold idea came to Lu Li's mind. Yi Cha said that they lacked several mystical materials, so they couldn't reach the Noble Lord realm. The most important one was the rising dragon grass. If he gave them the rising dragon grasses, even 3 or 4 would be a force to be reckoned with, let alone 6 Noble Lord realm warriors. With Noble Lord realm warriors protecting him, no matter how many warriors of the Yu family came, they would all die. Also, with the protection of Noble Lord realm warriors, he could leave the northern desert and go to the central plains at any time. He could even go to the Cyan Plains to find Lu Ling. On this thought, Lu Li was trembling with excitement. Yi Cha and the others were restricted by the inhibition formations of the small world. Once they reached the Noble Lord realm, they could go in and out easily. The world was big, and he could go anywhere he wanted. Father, mother, sister, I will find you soon. Luli took a few deep breaths, stood up, and walked out. As he walked out of the castle, a gust of cold wind blew over. Luli suddenly stopped. The cold wind sobered him up a bit. No, I cannot be impulsive. He calmed himself down. There were too many questions about the small world of the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race. What if it was a trap? He had given the 2 races the best elixirs, but in the end, he was set up and killed by the 2 races. The more Luli learned, the more he was in awe of this world. This world was too dangerous. One wrong move could cost him his life. Hunchback Tion said that the Mammoth race was born with a one-track mind. In other words, they were stupid. On the other hand, the Cyan Phoenix race was famous for being sinister and cunning. If he was set up the other way, not only would he lose the rising dragon grass, he might lose his life as well. What was more, the inscription on the stone tablet stated that he was the Saint Lord of the 2 races. This was so ridiculous that Lu Li still couldn't believe it. He stood on the peak of the mountain and started to think. After half a day, he finally cleared his mind and came up with a solution. Hunchback Tion, Lu Li shouted. Hunchback Tion appeared like a ghost. Without looking at him, Lu Li asked in a low voice, Cyan Phoenix race, do you think I can trust them? Hunchback Tion was surprised. He didn't expect Lu Li to suddenly mention the Cyan Phoenix race. Hunchback Tion thought about it and said, judging by what they did before, they should be trustworthy. At least they don't have any ulterior motives against you, Master. Lu Li didn't answer. He thought about it and said, can you get any information about the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race? I need more details. That is not a problem. Hunchback Tion said, the 2 races are famous. They are recorded in many ancient books. You can find them by buying some. Go. Luli waved his hand and said, "Ask Patriarch 7 to get the most detailed information. Keep it secret and don't let anyone else know." Hunchback Tion rushed down the Dragon Elephant Mountain. Luli stood on the peak of the mountain again and started to think. He stood there until it was dark before he went back to the stone fort. The next day, Patriarch 7 delivered an ancient book to Luli in person. He browsed through it and gained some understanding of the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race. Yicha didn't lie. The two races were really famous at the Central Plains back in the day. They dominated the magnificent plains for hundreds of thousands of years. 5,000 years ago, they were suddenly besieged by the 6 families of the Central Plains. The two races were wiped out. According to the book, all the disciples of the two races were dead. It seemed that the outside world didn't know that there were survivors of the two races hiding in the small world. Luli didn't do anything for the whole day. After the sky turned dark, he suddenly shouted, "Hunchback Tion!" Hunchback Tion lived in the stone fort of the Dragon Elephant Mountain. He appeared in front of Luli in a flash. Luli waved his hand and said, "Let's go. Take me to the Earth Dragon Island and into that small world. Remember, don't let anyone find out our whereabouts." To the small world? Hunchback Tion was surprised. What was Luli going to the small world for? Hunchback Tion didn't dare to ask too many questions. He nodded and said, "No problem." Hunchback Tion grabbed Luli with one hand and rushed out of the island like a ghost under the cover of darkness. The route he chose was remote. The inhibition formations on the Blood Evil Island were basically arranged by him. Naturally, they wouldn't be triggered. They sneaked out of the Blood Evil Island and got to the Earth Dragon Island without a sound. There were spies on the island, but how could they find Hunchback Tion? The two went down the volcano and entered the underground river. Luli didn't let Hunchback Tion go in. Instead, he asked him to guard the underground river and to break a jade talisman to inform Hunchback Tion as soon as anything happened. Luli went into the underground lake by himself. Then he used his Xian energy to trigger the inhibition formation and was teleported to the small world again. He appeared in the same forest as last time. However, there were people stationed nearby. 2 warriors of the Cyan Phoenix race appeared. When they saw it was Luli, they got down on one knee and said, "Greetings, Saint Lord. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."